It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Alex, Andy, and Jason are all here. And yes, the invites have gone out. We'll talk about Apple's event. We now know the date, the time. We even think we know some of the things Apple will announce. We'll talk about all those rumors. Elon is suing. He said he would, and now he's doing it. And the FTC threatens American tech companies. And guess what? They like it. All of that and more coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 987, recorded Tuesday, August 26th, 2025. As Gruber as it gets. It is time of a Tuesday to talk of things Apple. Welcome to MacBreak Weekly. I am your genial host, the avuncular Leo Laporte. Joining us now, my nephews. Jason Snell. I don't think he wants to be that. Of sixcolors.com. Hello, Jason.
Gee, Uncle Leo, what are we going to talk about today?
I shall dandle you on my knee as we talk of something very exciting. But first, let's say hello to little Andy and Notco at the library. Hello, Andrew.
If we are three nephews, the question is, are we going to be like Donald Duck, like Huey, Dewey, and Louie, or are we going to be like Popeye, Peepeye, Pepeye, and Poopeye?
Oh, geez, there is a deep cut. I did not know he had three nephews.
He did. Three identical nephews.
Identical, of course, like Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who aren't identical if you're a duck, but if you're not a duck, they're indistinguishable.
All look the same, yeah.
Yeah. And finally, the founder of our little get-together, our little confab, 20 years ago, Mr. Alex Lindsay had a notion, and this is what you get. Hello, Alex Lindsay.
My vote is
Nice guy. Nice guy, eh? Hey, Joey Nichols. Call me Nichols. I'm going to stick a nickel to your forehead. Let us celebrate because the Apple September event invites have finally come out.
How was your invite, Leo?
I haven't looked. I'm not going to look. Of course, Marquez Brownlee got one and was the first to post it on the old X.com. Awe-dropping is the tagline.
Dropping.
And of course, Marquez, with a little flex, had the one that says, "Please join us in person for a special Apple event at the Steve Jobs Theater in Apple Park, September 9th." Correct? You get the prize, Jason.
Yeah, it's logical.
10 a.m. Pacific time.
Yep.
RSVP. Please note, Marquez Brownlee, we know you, and invitations are non-transferable.
Yep.
Don't send a producer. You be there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, should we be worried that the graphic this time is like a version of the Apple logo that looks like it's overheating and we're looking at it through a thermal imaging camera?
Very poor choice, to be honest.
On the Apple.com, it pulsates. It's all. And if
oh my God, it's overheating and
if you move your mouse over it,
I will say if they somehow decide to add something that's related to FLIR, that would be cool.
FLIR, you mean? Yes, FLIR. Yes, the infrared imaging.
Yeah.
Can't innovate my butt.
Apple.com, I got to see the pulsing. This just looks like an overheating iPhone. I don't know.
Move your mouse over it.
Ooh. It's like that thing, the plastic you can buy at the novelty stores.
Yeah, they're just having fun. Whatever.
Yeah. I'm sure that battery's fine. I'm sure we're just...
Let's get it really hot in the middle. There's your fingerprint reader.
Just because they'll probably introduce a brand new super thin iPhone with a battery composition they've never tried before. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about.
I admire Apple's commitment to the bit. Everybody knows it's an iPhone that's coming and Apple Watch. And they won't ever say that. It's just a media event. We're not saying, you assume iPhone, but I don't know. It could be something else. I mean, we all know, but they're not going to talk about it. This is what they do. Just like we know that it's always going to be, like we knew it would be September 9th. We also know the iPhone will be there and Apple Watch.
You're right. It is kind of adorable. It's kind of like when the parents, when the kids know that they're getting a PlayStation, and the parents know that they know, but they have to be coy about it.
Yeah. Can I get this game for the whatever I get? Yeah, sure. Right.
Searching for Apple.com. All I got is an office hours newsletter, tidbits, and garbage day. So I don't think I got the invite. Anyway, I wouldn't have gotten the join us in person type one. I'd get the one that's on the front page of the Apple site, which is
we have already banned your IP address. Don't even bother.
Don't even try to watch it online.
Don't stream it on YouTube, whatever you do.
Well, we know that.
We can't stop you from watching it if it gets uploaded to Daily Motion, but we will do what we can to prevent you.
I'm not going to take it personally. You didn't get an invite either, did you, Jason Snell?
I never. Last 3 years, I haven't gotten an invitation on day one.
I know why. It's your association with moi.
But then I find a way. Nature finds a way. So listen, I think it's the last 3 years I have on day one been invited to watch, and then I send an email to people I know at Apple PR, and it usually works out.
Jason, you were so busy proving you could do it. You didn't stop to think of whether you should do it. That's the problem right there.
I mean, the truth is, it would be easier to cover it. The pandemic taught me this.
I like sitting at home in our Discord talking about
there,
it.
But
that's
I will
my thing is
endeavor to be there.
Yeah.
I prefer to.
You're going to be doing the office hours thing.
Yeah, we just hang out and pick at it.
The advantage of being there is that it is a zoo, but you can actually touch it and see the colors and take some pictures, and then you can dine out on that for a week until the reviews come out.
You nailed it. You can dine out on it.
Why, yes, KWXT and Iowa. I'd be happy to be up at 4 a.m.
I've touched the holy item.
If I had a nickel for every piece that Macworld had me write, that was like hands-on with a new iPhone. And it's like, well, only whatever 100 people, 400 people, 800 people in the world have had their hands on the new iPhone and can talk about it for that week until the embargoed reviews drop. And so, I mean, there are some advantages to talking about it and saying, the following Tuesday that, I can say, yes, I held it and here's what it is like, but it's fleeting, right? And there are advantages to not going, but I'll try. I'm local. That's my great advantage here is that I don't have to make any plane or hotel reservations. I can just stand by, and I'm sure that there's some TV journalist from Japan who really wanted to go, but then she couldn't make it, and they're like, "Oh, that seat opened up. Let's bring Jason."
The thing is that it's totally they're not out of space. They just have to figure out how many employees are sitting in the back. So there's always a flex.
No, it is. I will say though, I mean, there is a capacity. It is not necessarily the seating capacity. It's the capacity of Apple PR
to talk to you while you're walking around that little open
that
area.
up and who's going to be there. But I will say there is a limit, and it is Steve Jobs Theater, so it's not like WWDC. It's a much smaller limit. And the thing that I know I sound like a broken record when I talk about this, but like we all get interested in all Apple. What is happening?
I'm not ready. I haven't done my.
We're not talking about the Vision. There's no Vision Pro segment.
This is how you become
the
number one Vision Pro podcast in the world.
And randomly.
I'm just trying to give you some leverage.
We are excited about the Vision Pro, but what I would say is the iPhone is important to the world in a way that no other product announcement is. And so when you do go to this event, you see so much international media, especially broadcast media, but also just in general.
Do they have an open area for the broadcast media to broadcast from? Is there?
So the Steve Jobs Theater
outside, right?
Steve Jobs Theater, you enter at the top and then you go down the stairs and there's a hands-on area. And then from there you go down into the theater and you enter at the top. So it's way down inside the earth with the
broadcast
people.
Media, do they have stands outside?
So a couple things. At that top level, it's a big glass circle. And so you'll get people who are doing stand-ups outside the glass circle with the backdrop of that. And there is an area that I think that there's restricted access, but there's also an area just above the theater where from standing down at the theater, you can look up and see like behind some plants, there are the backs of a bunch of people's heads. It's totally another video area happening up there. So they've got place for broadcast. And this is my point is this is a tougher ticket than any other event Apple does because they are bringing like broadcast media from all over the world, plus print media, web media from all over the world. The level of interest for the iPhone is beyond way beyond anything else that Apple does. Still. Because it's that big a product and important. I mean, it's one of the most important tech products, even if we're all kind of inured to just little incremental updates to the iPhone. The fact is it's a big product and it's a big
There's so many products in the world where 75 million people will spend an average of $1,000 on it within the next 3 months. That's a
good point.
It's a big product. Like,
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money that moves pretty quickly. I don't think there's any other physical device that moves at that velocity.
Amazing. Really amazing. Well, congratulations, Apple, on your great success. And I'm sorry I can't be there to celebrate with you, but I have other things to do that day. So is that a Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Well, yeah, Tuesday. Actually, we're going to be doing MacBreak Weekly right after the Apple event. So yeah, we'll cover the Apple event as usual now because of, I don't want to be churlish. But
it might be a little late because a lot of times now they've been running like 90 to
it's a couple hours.
Minutes.
Yeah. The slot they keep is 2 hours. Yeah.
Well, okay. So maybe we'll start.
I really think they could make it into an hour. like it's funny. It was an hour, and it was like, this is amazing. And now they've kind of like, let's put a bunch of extra stuff in there. I'm always like,
yeah. But
did you guys watch the Google event last week?
I watched the 12 minutes, the 12-minute highlights.
So.
Oh, you missed out.
We talked about this on a couple of shows, and the consensus was blame Apple, which I don't think is fair.
Nope. This is totally on Google. And as I'm watching this, I immediately regretted just the day before on this show. I said, I really think after seeing Google do like 2 or 3 of these events, I think they're doing a better job than Apple of figuring out how to do these quote live events post COVID. And then what do? They get Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Fallon.
I kept calling him Jimmy Kimmel too, which is hysterical. He got the unfunny Jimmy Kimmel is who they got.
To do this really weird, stilted show where it was did they say like when it's going to be shipping? Did they say how much it's going to cost?
They left out so much.
They basically, it was just like, it really was just a 45-minute, hour-long talk show in which, it's clearly not directed towards the usual audience. It's directed towards the youths of America and the world to say, hey, this would be a great time to buy yourself a Pixel phone. And knowing that the people who have to actually figure out like, okay, but does it charge wirelessly or not are going to get stuff during briefings or by reading blog posts afterward.
I think the fundamental problem is that they thought that people that younger generation is actually going to watch.
They like Jimmy Fallon, which is definitely tone deaf.
You're building it towards an audience that isn't going to watch that format. And so the thing is that it's rather than
think of the geeks.
I do think it makes sense as a press event. I get bored with a lot of stuff, and I think that the problem is they saw as someone who's probably worked on a couple hundred keynotes for a variety of big companies. This is why I don't like to do live.
Wait a minute, Alex.
Jonas, go ahead.
That would not have been any better if it were canned.
No, it would have been. No, you're right. That
was not the problem. Was live versus tape.
There were some uncomfortable situations.
They had a QVC table where they basically vomited every product in a random order. And then, and by the way, they have a really talented chief marketing officer who was standing there with a jet-lagged Jimmy Fallon trying to show some enthusiasm, Adrienne Lofton. She's great. But it was a QVC segment. And Jimmy picked up the wrong phone.
Guys, squeeze. I'm sorry, Alex, but it was one of the funniest part is when Jimmy recognized a tech term and he was so excited to jump in and go off. IP68. That means dust and water resistant. Right. That means you can take it on a construction site. And said, there are lawyers watching. There are things we can't say about that.
Well, and I think that the challenge is that when the hard part that we've had when we bring in talent for keynotes and other things that we've done, the higher the talent, the more national the talent is, the less time you have with them,
and the less they care. Because
the less they care. It felt like Fallon. I only watched the.
Oh, sorry. Never ask Bugs Bunny. By the way,
he should be all over the place. But I think the challenge you have is that you don't get much time with them, so you don't get to do all the prep, and you don't get to do all the practice, and you don't get to do all the other things. B, they don't care about this, and I really felt like when you watched it, Fallon was kind of making fun of it a lot. Even I was.
But that's his style. That's what you're going to get when you have Fallon.
He's not always making fun of things. If you look at him, a lot of times he's building up whoever. I think that's how they thought of him, as he builds up the people he's interviewing and everything else. But he didn't feel like he was building things up there. And so, and I do applaud Google for thinking outside the box and trying to do something different. I think that the format of keynotes became what it is because of Steve Jobs. And no one else has been able to do it very well. I think that Salesforce is probably the second best at doing it. I don't understand their products, but I will commend that Mark Benioff is very good at talking about them. But the But I think that outside of that, it's just painful to watch. Like if you're used to like,
it was terrible.
But they're all painful to watch, you know. And I think that live,
it was Samsung level terrible. I mean, it really.
Live is just it's so hard to do.
Again, that wasn't live. That wasn't the. I mean, it was, but I mean, that's not the issue. The issue was just poor choice of people. Although there were some demos that didn't go well when they had Alex Cooper of Call Her Daddy attempt to demonstrate the camera coach. She inadvertently showed some previous pictures. I don't know where they came from. There was They edited that out, by the way, in the version you'll see on YouTube. So only if you watched it live did you see that. And she kept telling Fallon, stop. She said, close your legs. And he could not close his legs. So they shot him from the waist up. And then the real problem was the picture wasn't any better. So they didn't even show it full screen. They just went, oh, look at that. And then moved on. It was, so that's where live did definitely. So I will grant you that, but it would not have been any better if it had been tight.
It's just hard. But when things get, I'll argue that it probably would have been better. It wouldn't have been great. It would have been still weird. It just would have been. The problem is that like when someone's not listening to you, you can stop and have a conversation about it when it's not live. And when they're not doing what you want them to do, or you get these off. And I know people watching love to see things not work or be edgy or whatever. The people doing it, like me, do not like that.
Well, and my biggest complaint, which you already referred to, is it didn't really demonstrate the phone properly. It didn't show the information. Andy was saying, we know when's the shipping, what does it cost, all of this stuff was kind of buried,
right?
In the razzmatazz, and that's not what you want, because what is the audience for that? I don't know.
I'll say one thing positive about that. I actually went back and I watched like the first 10 minutes of the previous Pixel Impact event, and still started with Rick Osterloh, who was their head of hardware, of like consumer hardware, but he started talking about because of AI and our end-to-end tech stack, blah blah blah. This one it wasn't like it was a totally nerdy event, but there were a lot of technical tech stuff that they wanted to talk about the phone that wasn't going to be relevant to the people who are going to be buying the phone. One positive thing I'll say about how they did it this year is that it really was feature. And yes, they mentioned Gemini, and yes, they mentioned AI, but they weren't trying to demonstrate AI. They were trying to demonstrate a feature where you could just simply have a natural conversation over phone lines with somebody who speaks Spanish, and it would translate it not only on the fly, but
that was impressive.
But also create a version, a synthetic voice that approximates the speaker's voice. Yeah. So I'll give them points for that.
Yeah.
The feature I thought was amazing. Like that was I think that feature, when I saw it, I was like, oh man,
Google has
closest
literally
to Star Trek I've ever seen.
Demonstrated simultaneous translation in every event they've had for the last 10 years.
I know, but that one was
on another level.
This one was a different level.
You're having a conversation on the phone. It's not like Google Translate. You're having a conversation on the phone. Yeah, we'll see. I think embargoes lift this week, so
we'll see. Are you getting a 10?
I'm on the fence. It's either going to be a 10 or 11 because I'm on my last OS update for my Pixel 6, but it's very, very tempting. But
I want you guys to tie me to the mast, because I don't want to buy anything Apple announces on September 9th, because I'm going to save my pennies for the next year. And you saw this on Sunday. Mark Gurman's Power On newsletter at Bloomberg said the next 3 years are going to bring big redesigns. So next year, we're going to see the folding, this according to pure rumor and speculation, folding phone. The year after, of course, the 10th anniversary iPhone. And then he says in 2020, now my math's off, 2028, is that we're going to see finally the phone Apple's always wanted to make. Is it clear?
They're talking about either transparent, like all glass body, meaning that there's no like a metal frame around it. I've heard they're a little bit coy about how the specifics are. One of the things they're suggesting is that it's going to have like a curved front, which I don't really like, because my Pixel has like curved glass on the side of the screen.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially if you have it in a case, you basically have this gutter on the side of it.
Anyway, time into the mask, boys, because I want to hold off. I don't want that slim thing, which we think now is going to be called the Air, according to the rumors. I don't want the 17 Pro Max XL. I want to save my money for maybe the folding phone next year. Next year, right?
Yeah.
Is that smart?
Yeah.
Can I do it?
Yeah.
Here's the test. Watch along with us. Mike and I will be streaming it on Discord in the club only.
You can't do it, but that's okay. That's why we love you. Is like you just
please.
It's your job. You need it for your work.
Just handcuff me to the chair.
As always, I just wait until the end because the last thing that they'll talk about is the only thing that most of us care about, which is the camera.
Okay, one more thing about Google that I have to mock. They attempted a one more thing. But the problem was the one more thing they had already released as a press release that morning. So maybe a little hint to Google. The one more thing should be something no one knows about.
I also don't think that. I think that it's even uncomfortable if Apple tries to do one more thing at this point. Like,
yeah, it is.
It was a moment.
That was Steve's thing.
Yeah, let's let that.
Also, bring it back to Apple. This was probably the most. I think they mentioned or reflected Apple more in this event than they did for the past 3-4 years.
A lot of subtweeting.
A lot of shade, and also a bunch of, hey, and don't worry, we're supporting Apple this way, and hey, if you've got an iPhone, this will work like this, and not just the usual, hey, we finally arm twisted Apple into supporting RCS, so messaging will work fine. There was when they talked about their version of Qi 2, like magnetic accessories and charging, which of course
it's MagSafe,
which exactly because Apple actually said, hey, this consortium, you can have this. And it'll work with MagSafe accessories too, just like Apple. So it was interesting that they mentioned Apple so many times during.
I think when you look at not the 18 to 25, but the 12 to 25, it's dark for Google, and they have to figure out how to engage that audience. I mean, I
think they said they're 4% of the market. I mean, really, it is a Samsung Apple.
Yeah,
but even then, even when you compare Android to iOS in that 12 to 25 range, it's a pretty rough area
Google,
for them to be in. They have,
they may be forced to kind of divest Android anyway. I think Google doesn't really see that much value in Android at this point. This is why they're pushing the Pixel like crazy.
Android is such a lush source of signals for their search business and their advertising business. They want Android going as long as they possibly can.
Or just get those Google apps installed on the iPhone, and they can.
I think the biggest benefactor of Android is Apple. Like, and the reason for that is that it's kept Apple out of.
See, we're not a monopoly.
No, you're exactly right. That is the number one thing that Android has done is allowed Apple to go this as far as it could without having to deal with antitrust, because they would have been an antitrust 10 years ago if Android didn't exist.
It's funny because they're doing with Google what Microsoft did with Apple when Steve Jobs came back and they gave him $150 million just so that they wouldn't go under, so that Microsoft could credibly say, well, there is a Mac.
Yeah, it is getting a little bit more.
That was a pretty complicated thing when they gave the money, because I think they gave them more than 150 million.
Yeah, maybe it was more. They saved 400 anyway. Was it 400?
It was. There was some of it that was.
Yeah,
there were a couple different ways.
They made their money back. They're fine. But it's interesting.
Good point.
I mean, Google is finally at least deciding that, hey, perhaps Android should not look like a big phone when you put it on a large screen. And they're making so many, partly to support all of the foldable phones and different displays, but they're trying to finally make tablets a thing. I thought it was kind of interesting. I think it was last week or the week before, Amazon announced that their Fire tablets, which are for what they are, they're great. Just I want a cheap tablet I can give to the kids in the back seat so that they can play games and they can watch videos. And if they lose it or if they drop it, I don't really care because it's only $100 tablet. They decided that at least for the premium versions of these Fire tablets, they're going to go off of their own custom fork version of Android based on the Android open source project, and they're actually going to switch to like Google Android, so have access to the Google Play Store, have access to Google services, which I'm still not sure that they'll have any. I still don't know the argument that I could make to anybody to get an Android tablet instead of an iPad at any price level.
Nope.
But it's interesting that Amazon, having a mature version of Fire OS based on open source Android for a number of years, have decided that, okay, now it's time to stop and cast my lot with Google.
I own 10 Samsung tablets, and the argument for those is that they are interfaces for specific things.
Right.
Yeah. And they're $110. They were $110 when I bought them. Whenever they play a page, and it's cheaper than an iPad. But to
Samsung's credit, they make the only decent Android tablet, the Galaxy Tab. It's much more expensive. It's iPad price, but that's the only, as far as I know, the only decent one.
Yeah. Android tablet so, Android's tried a lot. The tablet experience isn't great. I spent the last couple of years trying a bunch of Android-based e-readers, e-ink, and some other screen-based ones. And every time I launch an app in a tablet configuration, I just think, oh, like it's just a phone app because Android is about phones. I would read Amazon's decision the other way, Andy, which is at this point, throwing your lot in with Android is probably easier for them because it's probably not worth it for them to make more engineering effort in the premium tablet area because it's not going to be a huge business for them. And I think, their huge business is actually the cheap tablet that they've wired. But the whole, like Amazon, if you ask them today, would you do the Amazon App Store and all of that? I think they wouldn't.
Well, and the problem is that I bought an Amazon app, an Amazon tablet, when I was trying to get a bunch of tablets together to do these controllers, and it was so limited that I sent it back, or I took it back to Best Buy or wherever I bought it. And the problem that you get into is that I don't know the difference between the high-end version and the low-end version. All I know is I got an Amazon Fire or whatever that was. It completely was frustrating, and I was like, I'm never buying that. Like that was it.
Well, Amazon's given up on it.
They should, but you can't like this whole their painfully broken OS. Limited to all the stuff with all the ads and all the other stuff. It was such a bad experience that there's no way. I can't even see it.
But this, this is the Google Pixel tablet, which would presumably be the best Android tablet out there, and it's not.
Yeah, but even then, that's not it's basically a smart speaker display that you can pull off of the display. It really isn't designed to be something you put in. It's not designed like this beautiful iPad Pro that I've got used as an external display that I often use just as a primary, not just a content consumption device, but a creation device.
So we all acknowledge that the iPad is king of the hill, and Google actually has said in an interview, they said, one of their executives said, we're not really working on tablets. We're not really working on rings. We're not really
or headsets.
They said in glasses, which was funny because they showed glasses at Google I/O, but he said, we're not working on those really either. I don't know. You know what? Google,
but they are working on an operating system to enable other people to make good smart glasses and good goggles.
They want to be Microsoft. They want to be the infrastructure.
They have one department that makes hardware, and they've found success as they choose to define success in that niche. But no, they're not. They don't need that kind of trouble.
The challenge is we're going to build tools that other people can use. Is that a lot of the hard things to do take an incredible amount of investment to get it off the ground, to push it through. If you look at whether it's Apple or Meta on the headsets, or whether it's anybody else, anything that matters that's going to take a lot of market share in whatever vertical it goes into, oftentimes takes a huge amount of risk to get there. And big companies can do that. When you hand people just the materials, they're not going to take, oftentimes no one's going to take the risk that they had to take to actually get it done. And B, they fork it to a point where it doesn't make, it doesn't serve the use that it originally was designed for. And so I think that, I think this is the same problem Apple has with HomeKit, which is that they keep on wanting to make an environment that other people can build tools into, and no one's really doing that very well.
That was another announcement Google buried in that ridiculous event, which is that they've got actually a pretty credible Google Home strategy going forward. And maybe it is Google that's going to start, because they do have Gemini, and they are building it into all the things, including the watch now, in a way that I think is going to be, could be very useful.
It'll be interesting. It does feel like Apple's getting more serious of and we'll see, but over the next year, there's a lot of rumors that Apple's maybe going down the path that some of us have been talking about, which is like, hey, why don't we just build all the stuff?
For building the home stuff,
the home
they
stuff,
seem to be taking the home category seriously.
I think once they build the hub, I think that they'll let other people play with it. But I think eventually they're just going to build out the 5 or 6 things that all of us want, and it'll all talk to the hub.
Will they use Siri?
I don't know. I don't really care.
Yes, but what will drive it? What will next gen Siri actually be? That's the real question there. I think. We kind of meandered through a bunch of topics there, and I just wanted to say that when I think about that rumored folding iPhone for next fall, I think that is Apple's greatest asset for that. Is they put 15 years into the iPad, and that unfolded version will be a little iPad, and we all know what that means. and we all know how that's going to work. And they've had a lot of time to think about what a tablet app is like on their devices. And I think that makes that product like that much more compelling, because it is not, Apple is good at phone and tablet, and Android is weaker on tablet by quite a bit. So it's an advantage Apple can press. Even though Apple's been sitting on the sidelines with folding devices up to now, when they jump in, they can take advantage of the 15 years of the iPad.
Yeah,
and that you credit to not just Apple, to developers who embraced the tablet on the Apple side, but did not on the Android side.
And also, if developers have been listening to Apple for the past 2 or 3 years, that basically you get whatever app you've been building for the iPad, you get a free iPhone Fold version as soon as it gets released, or whether it's tomorrow or 2 years from now. Yeah. So I mean, it's a lush, rich, fertile topic, Apple's relationship with developers, but they are very, very good at saying, well, look, if you invest, I know we kind of make this, they don't say this explicitly, but the deal is that we will make it a pain in the butt far more than it has to be. But the thing is, your investment in learning how to build apps using our APIs is going to pay off in the form of, we've got things that we are just in the planning stages right now that your app is going to be working with 4 or 5 years from now.
All right, let's take a break. That was one story. The Apple event is officially the 9th. But there is so much more to talk about. We will get to that with Andy Ihnatko, Jason Snell, Alex Lindsay. The MacBreak Weekly team is on the case. We are brought to you this week by Pantheon. And I don't just mean our advertiser, Pantheon. Our website, our workflow, our backend all runs on Pantheon. Pantheon is our web host, but more than a web host. They host the Drupal that runs the entire workflow. Of course, what's nice about this, we created this beautiful headless Drupal that they've been running flawlessly now for, I think, 5 or 6 years. They do such a good job. And it is something that's so reliable. We rely on it not just for our website, but for everything. So when this show is over, John Ashley will go into the headless Drupal instance, the content management system running on Pantheon servers, and publish the show, do the show notes, everything. It's all done with the help of Pantheon. Of course, a website is probably the most important thing that you run in your business. Your website is, I would guess, in many businesses, your number one revenue channel. And when it's slow or it's down or it's stuck in a bottleneck, oh man, you hear it. It can also be, at that point, your number one liability. That's why you need a host like Pantheon. Pantheon keeps your site fast, secure, and always on. Better SEO, better conversions, no lost sales from downtime. It's not just a business win, by the way. It's a developer win, too. Just ask Patrick Delahanty, our engineer. He loves Pantheon. Your team gets automated workflows, isolated test environments. That's super important for us. We move stuff into test, then development, and then production, and it's seamless. So we get zero downtime deployments, no late night fire drills, no, hey, it works on my machine headaches, just, pure innovation. Marketing loves it. They can launch a landing page without waiting for a release cycle. Developers love it. They can push features with total confidence. And your customers, they don't care. If they just see a site that works flawlessly, smoothly, rapidly, 24/7. Pantheon powers Drupal and WordPress sites that reach over 1 billion unique monthly visitors. Visit pantheon.io and make your website your unfair advantage. Pantheon, where the web just works. Pantheon, pantheon.io. We love Pantheon. Thank you, Pantheon, for supporting us for all these years. Every time I mention Pantheon, Patrick goes, yeah. Yeah, love those guys. All right. So I didn't even ask Alex and Andy. I know I didn't get it. Even the invite that says you could watch online if you want. I presume you guys are still waiting for your invite.
Yeah. I'm every day. I'm going out to the mailbox, and I open it up and I go, and I wait for the glow to come out of the mailbox. I go,
would it be nice if they mailed paper invites? That would be kind of cool. I would like that.
Imagine you could make out of metal. They should be something you could put, like gold leaf.
I want a footman with a top hat to come to my door and say, "Sir, your presence is requested."
I want a huge case of chocolate bars, and one of them has a golden ticket in it.
I can take it all back. What I want is a marching band to march down my street.
Say him. He was
Travis Tillman at the head in the drum major position.
What's
right. His name? Is that his name? Tillman, the guy in Severance.
Sure, it could be.
You know what's funny is that
a little tie-in.
You know what's funny is that is how much Apple did not stream these in the early days out of the fear that the press wouldn't come. If it was streamed, they wouldn't.
So weird.
And they couldn't. They couldn't. They didn't want anyone to see it. They wanted to keep it all to the press. And so we're so far.
Yeah. Now the press goes and just watches the same video that the rest of the world does, but on a bigger screen.
But you still get just as many people more people than what end up showing up. You know.
Yeah. For sure. We
will stream it. Of course, in the club only. So if you're not a club member, please join now, because September 9th, Micah Sargent and I will be there at 10 a.m. We'll go until the end, and then we'll do MacBreak Weekly. And since we expect Jason Snell will be out of pocket that day,
probably not be there. Yes,
we will have Micah continue on and do the show with Andy and Alex. And of course, if you're an Office Hour fan, you can. Do you have to be a member of the Zoom? You don't put that on YouTube, probably.
No, yeah, it's just in Zoom. So we go into we have an after hours which runs 24/7. So we all go in and hang out. Okay. And so we just go into there. We have a couple extra viewing rooms, and so we'll jump into one of those. And so if you're in office hours, that's where you go.
That's a fun way to do
it.
And
a whole bunch of us sit there and pick at it. So.
Yeah. The Foxconn is ramping up factory hiring in China, which is interesting because didn't we hear that all of the new iPhones will be made in India?
Only the U.S. ones. Tim, in the last call, Tim actually said that China is still going to be all the international malls, and all the U.S. malls are coming out of iPhones and other devices are coming out of either Vietnam or India.
Yeah. Mark Gurman said that saying all is not accurate, and it's going to be, many. My gut feeling here is that as many as they can make and verify from India will come to the U.S., and then they'll backfill with iPhones from elsewhere. But every model will be made in India. They're not making just some models. So the question is just, can they fulfill all of the US market with India production? My gut feeling is maybe not, but that's the goal, is as much as they can get from India, and then they'll backfill for the rest.
If you read Patrick McGee's amazing Apple in China, which I think we've all read and loved.
Great book.
He talks about how this happens seasonally in China. Foxconn hires recruiters, which go out into the countryside, because they need to staff up dramatically for these production runs, and they offer new hires a bonus. In this case, it's the equivalent of $1,113 if they stay for all 3 months. Apparently, that's a big jump, according to Apple Insider, from the incentives offered a couple of weeks earlier. It's a lot of money. And then these thousands of extra workers flock to Shenzhen to get on the assembly line. Many of them make enough money in those 3 months to go back home, and and Apple doesn't need them all year round. In fact, it's one of the incentives Apple has for spreading the iPhone releases out, is they don't have these big ramp ups.
Yeah, I think actually that is all this talk that they're going to split to a spring event and a fall event for the iPhone. That's one of my thoughts, is it makes everything smoother, right? Because you've got the people who have to build the new production line or modify an old production line to be new. You've got to have everybody who designs all the boxes, everybody who does every part of it. If you load almost every iPhone into one launch day, it's better to spread it out. Do it over 2. It saves you people in your factories. It saves you people back in Cupertino. It saves you people all over the world. You don't even have to qualify the new version of your OSs on 4 different pieces of hardware. You can only do it on 3, maybe. That's a good thing. There are a lot of reasons. And what did we say earlier? The iPhone event is the most watched Apple event. The reason that it's bloated, as Alex said, is because so many people are watching that it's the perfect place to introduce other things, because everybody tunes in for the iPhone and then you sell them on other things. So you know what? Why not do 2? Why not do 2? I mean, it makes if Apple is increasing the number of phones that they're selling, they're going to add a Fold. They've added the Air. They added the E. I love this idea from across the board, including production. Just think of how much they have to turn over every summer when they flip over production to new models. Wouldn't it be nice if they could spread that out over a full year?
So likely September 9th, they'll announce an iPhone, a thin iPhone, which I guess leaks from the case manufacturers. They're making a bet it's going to be called the Air.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, marketing is the last thing to leak because marketing is coming from Cupertino.
Right.
But yeah, and we should say there are lots of rumors out there about stuff happening next year. The rumor is that next year they might only do the Pro models in the fall and the non-Pro models in the spring. Yeah. This year it'll all be on the 9th. This year it's all coming. It's going to be the last maybe traditional all iPhones in event, but that's what's going to happen this time.
So the 17, let's say Air, the 17, the 17 Pro, and the 17 Pro XL, the 4 models.
Pro Max, yeah.
Pro Max,
exactly. Sorry. And we don't know 100% that it's 17. They renamed all the OSs 26, so it could be 26. We don't know.
They've skipped numbers before. In fact, Samsung has skipped like whole decades. my argument that they won't, and Mark Gurman reported about this on Sunday, is that they are not next year, but the year after, they are talking about doing an iPhone 20. That'll be the 20th anniversary.
It would be less fun if that was the iPhone 28 than if it was the iPhone XX or something like that. Yeah. So they might want to keep those numbers that way. Although, boy, I would like them to sync up all their numbers. I'd like the A processors and the M processors, and just let's year all the things, because I'm really tired of saying that the 16 has an 18 and it runs 26. It's like, let's not.
You think that is the term 20th anniversary product cursed enough for the 20th anniversary Mac that they're not going to want to even go close to reviving it for the 20th anniversary iPhone? I would love if they decided
nobody remembers that.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if they decided that this isn't the 20th, if they did something that was so special, it was truly a 20th anniversary iPhone and not necessarily the upgrade to the previous year's iPhone. If they said, we're going to have a separate SKU this year for this idea. One that is super, super, super stylish, that you're going to sacrifice some features. It's not going to have as nice a camera, but oh my God, you're going to have like the slickest iPhone.
This is what Gurman says, is that the goal with this is kind of like with the iPhone 10 to be a cutting edge new design that won't be on all the other models, but points toward where all the other models are going, which is what happened with the iPhone 10. I mean, basically all the iPhones are the iPhone 10 now, because the iPhone 10 showed the way, but when they launched it, it cost way more than the other iPhones and it was sold as a separate thing. It's that nerd thing. I'm going to do it here, Andy. The 20th anniversary Mac was the 20th anniversary of Apple and not a product, so they've dodged that bullet, right? I'll also point out next year's the 50th anniversary of Apple, so let's start a rumor about a 50th anniversary Mac. What would that be? Open source.
If I'm going to start a rumor that intimidates Apple into doing something, they open source the original Mac ROMs and the original Mac OS, so that if you want to do an emulation, it's absolutely free.
Love that idea.
Let's ship a new classic Mac OS
Bill
computer.
Atkinson would love that idea. That's a fantastic idea. Anyway, apparently, India is only 14% of current iPhone production. This is, again, from Apple Insider. So that
still sounds like China continues to try to let's make it hard.
Yeah, they pulled back. They pulled even more engineers, and Apple had to, Foxconn had to go to Taiwan and.
I think it's interesting though that Tata is taking over a lot of that production in India now, and that means that instead of it being this Taiwanese company with heavy roots in China, it's an Indian Indian company that's going to be doing that contracting, and like they are. Look, nobody said this would be easy, but this is Apple diversifying its product. I think if you ask Tim Cook in 10 years, how would you like iPhones to be produced? I think he would probably say something like, I want them produced in like 5 different places all over the world, so that nothing is, including China, not trying to get out of China, but just it's healthier if Apple is producing phones in China and in India and in Brazil and maybe in the United States, wherever, like in other places, because it makes everything a little bit less. But it's not going to be easy because so much expertise is in China, as that Apple in China book said. I will say though, how do you get Indian manufacturing to meet those standards? This is how you do it, because this is what happened in China.
Tata?
Is you have Apple people, because all these factories, remember, are run by Foxconn or Tata, but like they're run by Apple. And Apple in China showed us that the Chinese manufacturing learned from Apple's strict standards how to do this stuff. And if Apple applies those same ideas in India, one of the things they're doing is teaching Indian manufacturing how to adhere to Apple's standards, and that works for Apple in the long run, and it works for India. So I mean, it's hard, but they kind of have to do it, and everybody knows it.
Yeah, and it's and just to kind of put it in perspective, I mean, Tata's a big company. A third of the internet goes through the Tata internet services, and that's just the internet services, and and then you have the car services, and you have the other. There's so much to Tata. So this is a really big company, but learning.
They also own Jaguar, Land Rover.
Oh yeah, they're enormous.
It's an enormous. This is a big company, and I think that. And a global company, and so it's going to be interesting to see. Again, what Apple did in China. It's not as Jason's pointing out. It's not just that they are going to get phones made. They're going to change the way tech gets built in India. Like it's going to be because all these people that work there for some period of time are going to go out and start their own companies and everything else. And that's also why India has so many restrictions on having to build things in India, because they know that it'll build skill sets in India that they want. And we saw that with visual effects when they started doing when Indians started doing rotoscoping, as an example. It wasn't very good.
Did they get better fast?
Oh yeah. But what it took was
the same thing in China, right?
American specialists went over there, trained them, and picked at it for a while. And it took a couple years.
Exactly what happened in China.
And then everything. Anybody can do any of this anywhere. The big thing that'll be interesting is as AI picks up, is where it's going to be a smaller and smaller pool of labor that's required to build any of these things. As the machinery and as you start to end up with articulating, error correcting robots. It could be reshored. I mean, I think that's what Apple would love if you asked Tim Cook is to do these out of Phoenix, but have it be 99% machines.
All right, so we'll watch with interest. We got another update to the 26s. Tahoe was updated, iOS, iPadOS, watchOS, Apple TV OS, all updated. Was it yesterday? I feel like everything came in. This was beta 5.
It's like, I know it's Monday because there's a new public beta or another beta to download.
Right. So that means what? Is this the one, or are we still one or two away from the release candidate?
This is close to the end, if not the end. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if this build or a build very close to it is the one they load on the phones and call the release candidate.
They do have that ability, though, don't they, now,
in
to
the stores.
Update the phones in the stores?
Yeah, there's probably a placeholder build that is on the devices,
right?
And then when they get to the stores, you put them on the little thing, and it auto connects to Wi-Fi
without opening the box.
Without opening
amazing.
The box. Great idea.
Yeah, so clever.
Yeah, but this is for those waiting for more dramatic changes at the end of the beta period. Stop. Because it's not, and this is it. And this is, I was listening to a couple of podcasts talking about this, and we're just going to have to live with it, and it's going to be a mess, and it's going to bug app developers more than it bugs users. But some users are going to get bugged, and then it's going to be a process where there are going to be updates over time, and it's going to be a year or two of unsettled, and this is all exactly what you could have guessed, right? Anytime you have a big design like this, you can like the design or not like the design. Apple kind of doesn't care. Apple's just going to do what it wants to do. And then inevitably, some of what it does is going to be dumb. They're going to fix it in the summer, but it's not really fixed. And then there's going to be a 0.1 that kind of tweaks something, and then a 0.2 that fixes. And then next year, WWDC, they'll do a bunch of stuff, and people will be like, oh, that's better. We're just in it. This is just what it's like. Although I will say, most of the people who use these devices will not care as much about it as we do, and that's why I've seen some people are like, "This is going to be a disaster for Apple." I was like, I just don't think it is. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. However, I will say, if Apple screws something up badly, it can really backfire. My mom came and visited me last week. Very nice to get her out of the desert for a week. Nice. We had a good time. But while she was here, we updated the software on her phone, and she said, oh no, I guess I have to do that. It's just going to move things around. And I realized she's still feeling the trauma of iOS 7, right? So the danger here is Apple pulls out this pushes out a new OS design. And the danger is people will really freak out and feel like Apple screwed around with them. But Apple doesn't roll things out immediately to everybody on day one. There's a period where unless you ask for it, you're not going to get the update. And I would also say for people who haven't used Liquid Glass yet, functionally, it's the same. It looks different, but all the behaviors are basically the same. And I think that was the problem with iOS 7 is like people are like, I don't even know where to tap anymore. 100%. I don't think it's going to be an issue. So a lot of talk. It's good to talk about it. There are a lot of things that are kind of busted and developers are unhappy. I mean, it's good for us, right? Because we get to talk about it.
What are they unhappy about?
It's there's a lot of inconsistencies. There's APIs that don't work quite right. It's exactly what you'd expect. It's Apple built its own apps using this, and then there are edge cases that Apple just seems to have never thought of that all the developers are finding. And so they have to put in. Developers are grumpy because they have to put in a lot of work just to get their apps not to look broken when this version ships,
and they get blamed,
and they will get blamed. So that I was listening to Accidental Tech podcast, which has got a bunch of developers on it, and Marco Arment, one of the hosts, he said, "Be nice to your app developers, right? Be nice. That app that you're using.
To do this every year.
Just be nice. And this is a hard summer for them. They are trying very hard.
Every summer.
But but this one especially is like that. And again, there's not going to be a lot of sympathy out there for app developers, but those of us who can feel it should probably feel it for them because it's going to be a lot of work for them. And that's just, it happens. An OS redesign goes through these stages, and I think it's really funny that when you're looking at it week to week, you're like, "Oh, it's so dramatic." But if you step back and look at the big picture, you're like, "Yeah, of course, that's what's happening." I mean, this is just how it goes.
You speak of stages, and that's interesting because we're at the end of the first phase of a major redesign in which all the responses that you're seeing are responses to reactions from developers. And there are a lot of us that went into the public beta, and we have some feedback too, but mostly Apple is responding most immediately to concerns about developers, not just the APIs, but also, I don't know how to redesign my app to do this, or this feels very wonky. The next big lamppost is going to be, let's see how 26.1 looks, because that's when you stop getting feedback from people who are actively interested in checking out whatever the new thing is, and you start getting the feedback from the tens of millions of people who just want their iPhone to work, and they don't necessarily care about the design philosophy, and they don't necessarily care that, but look how seamless the experience is in user experience between this device and another. They're like, how come in the Photos app I no longer know where to go to find my most recent photos? So that's always the most interesting evolution to look for. Say, what did Apple think better of once they started getting feedback from tens of millions of users instead of hundreds of thousands of users?
And sometimes they'll just keep on doing whatever they're going to do. I mean, I've kind of become resigned to the way photos work on my phone. I still don't like it as much as it was before, and so that's always the danger.
You're gonna love this. They undid it, and I think that goes to Andy's point, right? Which is then it meets the enemy, which is the users, and they really know that they stepped in it. And Photos is a great example of that. Like, so you're going to win that one.
Yeah, because I literally my use of Photos dropped by 90%, but in one version. Like I was just like, it just wasn't. I used to open it just to see what it would show me. Like I would just be like this exploration and everything else, and then I just was like, oh, it just holds my photos now. So that's good. It's good. It's going backwards.
There is somebody who's pretty unhappy with the icons. It would be one John Gruber at DaringFireball.net, who he refers to Steve Jobs famously talking about how a good carpenter paints the back of the cabinet, the part that nobody sees because they care. Gruber says, these icons are not the work of carpenters who care about the backs of cabinets they're building. These icons are so bad, they look like the work of untrained. How hard can it be? Dilettante carpenters who only last a few days on the job before sawing off one of their own fingers. He's referring to disk utility, which, it's gone. These have all gone from skeuomorphic designs with real looking wrenches and screwdrivers and stethoscopes to a generic wrench with different icons inside.
I agree with him in the wrench. It's like, if you're going to decide that your overall theme is going to be a wrench, make it look like a freaking wrench, not like someone who is just learned MacDraw 1.0 and is trying to draw a wrench for the first time. It looks like the damn thing's going to break off.
Yeah, I was going to say the disk utility. I mean, I agree. I think these new icons aren't very good, but
you never see them because they're in the utilities folder.
A couple years ago, right? Mike Hurley and I did a tier list of Apple icons, and I'm reminded that we laughed so hard at the disk utility icon because it's like
stethoscope.
It's on a platter, and there's a stethoscope, and there's a hard drive. Like it's a surgery with a dot. I mean, and I get the metaphor, but it's a terrible icon. It's a terrible icon. Like, but what they replaced it with is like a weird wrench and an Apple logo, which doesn't say anything about being a disk utility at all. It's bananas. It's
not creative.
Somebody got assigned to this job, and they probably were overworked. And I would even say, like, this doesn't strike me as being somebody who's bad at their job. This strikes me as somebody who is given a task to generate 15 icons very quickly.
I don't know. I mean, most things in big companies like this, every icon, there's a lot of meetings, like, and I think that and there's definitely, I think that one of the things you were seeing a pattern of is simplifying everything, so that when it's in a small icon, it's easier to read quickly. I think that's kind of the direction that it's going. If you look at all those icons, they're going from being complicated to being something that you kind of glance at. And so I think that might be the use of it, but it's not very inspiring.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it's not like these are going to be installed on an Apple Watch. These are all going to be desktop icons, so they're going to be big enough that you may as well make them more explanatory. I agreed with I agreed with a lot of the stuff that he said in that piece. One of them being that it looks like a developer who basically created a stopgap icon that he knew that, well, I know that at some point, and a real designer is going to be giving the real one, but this is what I got.
It's not too late. It still could, right?
Yeah, it still could. It's good. But the reason why this article kind of got my attention was that Gruber was, at the end, when he winds up, he implies that this could be the canary in the coal mine that Apple designed. Apple's period of history of being known for their great design might be over, or might be waning, or if this is the beginning of the end.
The utilities folder is full of a lot of dead canaries.
Yeah. I mean, and also to be fair, we all have our areas of particular interest. One of John Gruber's particular areas of interest is in design. Yeah, and this is why, like, right. I roll my eyes when there's, like, not specifically talking about him, but when I hear somebody talking about, oh my God, let's talk about the technical term with how they change the distance between the dot on the I in the system font and the baseline.
And straight line through this icon and the thing.
Again, I looked
at it. I didn't even understand what he was complaining about.
He's showing off that the AppleScript utility icon, like, it's now the AppleScript logo is rotated. I also didn't like the fact that it's harder to read as an object. But this isn't just, a person who's a big fan of design nitpicking. This really is. I understood the comment that he was making immediately, that
so I'm looking at this. Would you explain it? Because I looked at this and went, yeah.
It's leaning backward now. They rotated it, and it's hard to say why.
So on the original icon, it
stands up straight.
Yeah.
And now it's leaning backward. Yeah, it's just why. Why is it like that? It is an incredibly nitpicky thing, and I love Gruber for it. But as John says, it's wrong.
It's yeah. Why is it like that? I don't. Okay. I mean, there was a meeting. The meeting was, let's use the wrench, this toy wrench, and we'll have a whole bunch of little hexagons
and not
with icons on them.
We don't want to look real world. We've abandoned that.
Yeah, so. and have the hexagons with the different objects for all the utilities in there. I get it. Yeah. I get it. It's, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's just a little thing. But I think what a lot of us longtime Apple watchers would notice is the people building stuff at Apple today are there primarily because they are excited about the iPhone, and the Mac is also present. And, I love it when I talk to somebody who really, really cares about the Mac at Apple, but there are a lot of people for whom the Mac is a product in their lineup. And I think that is something here where like the Mac has all these weird fiddly areas that are never going to be anybody's priority. And I think this is Gruber raging at that a little bit. And I get it, even though, it's probably... It's more of a symptom of the larger disease.
And sometimes a lot of these aren't just making an icon. There's a whole bunch of rendering requirements of how it renders and how it's used and how it goes into those other things and everything else. And then that combined with trying to pull them all together so that you're always looking at some utility. So we're going to make them all look this way. So that says that every time I look at it, I know that that's a utility. And then I just have to know which one it is. And I think that they probably thought about it a lot. We may disagree with their design, but I don't think that they didn't spend time on it. I think that they very consciously decided this is what they wanted. I bet you there was a bunch of people working on that for a long time.
All right, we're going to take a little break, but I do want to give, as a kind of meta to this story, a Uncle Leo's media literacy tip. We've mentioned before that when you look at analysts' reports, that the analysts' audience is investors.
Yeah.
And they're not writing for enthusiasts, people who care about the product. They're writing for investors about whether they should buy the stock. When you read a blogger, and this is no disrespect for any blogger, but they have a certain mission. They've got to create copy that drives traffic on a regular basis. And sometimes they need to really gin up some outrage to drive that traffic. And when you watch a YouTube video, it becomes very important that you click the link. And then, having clicked the link, so they have that thumbnail, that you continue to watch the video at least for, a minute or two so they get credit for it. All of these are perverse incentives that don't have a lot to do with the content and more to do with monetization.
Not every content creator on the internet is aligned to engagements.
Okay, but
and
many
if you're saying
are.
that about a John Gruber post, I will tell you, John Gruber doesn't care about engagement at all, and his business model isn't tied to engagement. It feels
like a little faux outrage to generate
it's
traffic.
Not. He's that guy. I would say that there are lots of creators who are trying to farm engagement. But when you say bloggers, a lot of us bloggers, we do this because we are broken in very particular ways to care about
I
things.
would submit those are the ones to follow and pay attention to.
And Gruber,
and that's part of being media literate, is knowing who's who.
Complaining about Mac icons is about as Gruber as it gets. So that's all I'm saying, is that's not because he's engagement farming. That's because that guy is hooked up that way. That's just how it is.
And I think you could say with some confidence that nobody on this panel is an engagement farmer, or we would be much more successful.
Yeah, exactly. We're all like, we do what we do. We do what we do.
I'm wearing a cardboard belt.
Exactly.
We are broken in a special way, as you say, Jason, and we do it because we love it, and we love covering the content. All right, I will grant you that this is every once in a while, though, I feel like, John, there's a lot of outrage behind stuff that I
think he's just outraged by it.
He's just a grumpy old man now. That's just how it is. He's a grumpy guy.
When it comes to design, particularly,
we have to remember that, he posts stuff all the time. We only talk about it every once in a while, so it's not like it just happens to be.
No, but his site just doesn't monetize like that.
I read Daring Fireball religiously.
Yeah.
And I do see a certain amount of that, but I think you're right. I think it's more John's outrage is legit.
Yeah. He doesn't make more money. Farming. I mean, honestly, he doesn't make more money if he has a post go viral like that. Something is rotten. He just doesn't make more money on that. That's just not his business model. He does it because he's grumpy.
He cares.
And then sometimes it works. The system works.
God bless him. God bless him. All right, we're going to take a little break, and we have lots more to talk about. You're watching MacBreak Weekly, where we are far from engagement farming. If we were, the show would be punchier, it would be shorter, and we would all be much better looking. But hey, this is what it is, and you came here to watch this, and God bless you for doing that. We appreciate it. Our show today brought to you. It's fun, actually. Both of our advertisers today are our infrastructure. Brought to you by our content delivery network, in this case, CashFly. I mean, literally, if you're watching the show, you're watching it, unless you're watching it on YouTube, but if you're watching it on our website, you're watching it through CashFly. If you download the podcast, you're getting it through CashFly. For over 20 years, CashFly has held the track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery, serving over 5,000 companies in over 80 countries, and we know because we're one of them. CacheFly saved our bacon in the earliest days of Twit, almost 20 years ago, when we could not figure out how to deliver. We had surprising a number of people who wanted to download the show, and it turned out the website could not do it. Matt Levine at CacheFly came to me, thank you, Matt, and saved us. And we have been using CacheFly ever since. We love their lag-free video loading, their hyper-fast downloads, their friction-free site interactions. See, CacheFly is the only CDN built from day one for throughput. They offer ultra-low latency video streaming, for instance. It delivers video to over 1 million concurrent users with under 1 second of latency. Lightning-fast gaming delivers downloads faster with zero lag, glitches, or outages. That's hard to do, but CacheFly does it. Mobile content optimization, this is super cool. If you've got images on your site or you're delivering images in any form, it gives you automatic and simple image optimization automatically, so your site loads faster on any size screen on any device. The thing we loved about CacheFly, they understood that we didn't really know our business very well, and we didn't have no idea where the bandwidth would be in demand, where it wouldn't be, so they gave us flexible month-to-month billing for as long as we needed it. They'll do the same for you, which is awfully cool. And then once you know, they'll give you discounts for fixed terms. The point is you design, as we did, you design your own contract when you switch to CacheFly. CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 158% faster than other major CDNs and allows you to shield your site content in their cloud, ensuring a 100% cache hit ratio. And with CacheFly's elite managed packages, you get the VIP treatment. Your dedicated account manager will be with you from day one, ensuring smooth implementation and reliable 24/7 support when you need it. Beat your competition with faster content delivery anywhere in the world. CacheFly provides reliable CDN solutions fully tailored to your business. Learn how you can get your first month free at cachefly.com/twit. That's CACHEFLY.com/twit. How many years have you heard me say this? Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com/twit. And how often have you heard me say this? Thank you, CacheFly. Thank you. It looks like baseball may be moving on up. Apple is, according to some rumors, considering abandoning their Friday night baseball deal.
Yeah, this was reported. No, nothing is official yet. This was reported that NBC is making a deal for Sunday Night Baseball, and there was a report that they were also going to get Friday. And so that's been going around, but I'll say that John Orend at Puck in his newsletter yesterday said that Apple is keeping Friday night.
Okay,
so,
and I trust Puck because they really follow this.
John Orend is about as good as it gets in sports business. And he says that Apple's keeping it. Now, nobody's announced anything. This is one of those things like everybody basically says Apple has got the F1 deal in the United States, but no announcement has been made. Yeah. So we don't really know. But yeah, the baseball rights are up for the next 3 years, and then they're going to have all their rights expire at once, and we're going to see what happens. And it looks like Apple was in a conversation about Sunday Night Baseball, which is currently on ESPN, and ESPN dropped it. And it sounds like that's not going to happen. But according to Orend, they're keeping Friday night, and then Sunday Night Baseball will go to NBC, which gives NBC, for those in the United States, NBC is basically doing sports on Sunday nights every week for the whole year because they've got Sunday night basketball, football, and baseball now, apparently. So that's actually really great for branding. Is Sunday night, there's a premier sporting event on NBC on broadcast TV. So I think that that's a pretty cool way to extend their brand of Sunday Night Football, which is the #1 TV show. It's like most of the top rated shows of any given year are Sunday Night Football. So it's a big deal.
Do we know if the MLB has been successful for Apple on Friday nights? I mean,
nobody says a word about it. I would say if it continues, that says something. If it does continue with Apple, that it says something. I think Apple is viewing it as an experiment with sports. They're just seeing how it goes, just like MLS. Everything is a little experimental for Apple at this point.
Yeah, I feel like there's just so much they could do. You know, like once you aren't tied down to broadcast, there's so much you could do, and it just feels like there's so little real progress that's happening.
They're just using MLB Network as their production team, and I wonder if that might change in a new deal.
Doesn't ESPN now? Didn't they just acquire MLB?
No. ESPN acquired the NFL network. They may end up with a deal for the MLB network at some place down the road, but they're buying the MLB.TV license, which
they'll
is
have
kind of
access to MLB.TV, which fans
so
will be able to
we'll see.
Okay.
But Alex's point is that he'd like to see Apple push the production, and the problem with that is that that's much more expensive because they would basically need to hire their own crew, and instead they've been contracting with MLB Network to broadcast those games. So they're using existing announcers, existing crew, all of that. So they could, but it would be more expensive to do that.
Yeah, and I wonder whether, again, I still feel like I know that we haven't started into that thing, but I think that keeping their foot in the door on some of the sports also is related to the Vision Pro, because I think there's lots of things that they'd like to. I think that many interactive folks that do immersive style things love sports as an opportunity. The problem with it is, we've talked about this before, is large fields, hard to shoot in. Like they're just hard to get anything compelling. So it'll be interesting to see.
How's the MLS deal going?
Nobody knows.
That's a 10-year deal.
Yeah, nobody knows.
It is. So a lot of the controversy, and this actually came up with F1 and it came up with Major League Baseball as well, is Apple TV Plus is just not one of the bigger streamers. And so there's a worry about money versus visibility, that Apple is often willing to pay a lot of money, but what you lose is visibility just from people kind of randomly flipping around or whatever, right? And so MLS, I think, is the same issue. They pay pretty well, and the game's production values are pretty good, but they do export some games and have them on cable TV. But there is this sense that by going with Apple, MLS has sort of lost some visibility. And that was the challenge with F1, right? ESPN would give them more visibility, but not as much money as Apple. And so they're going to go with that. I do wonder, though, over time, if visibility, you can do some visibility, but like we are in a streaming world. And so in some ways, the money, you take the money and see how it goes. So it sounds like MLS is pretty happy with Apple in a lot of ways, but I think there's a general sense in the league that they're not as visible as they used to be because everything is kind of locked behind Apple's paywall.
Well, and now Apple TV Plus is going to be more expensive. They've raised the price $3 to $12.99 a month.
Just for the monthly plan. And this is the thing. Apple TV Plus is famous for being high, according to analysts, high in churn, which is basically people subscribe and then they cancel, and they subscribe and then they cancel.
Is it tied to what is on? Like they watch
it's
all
tied
the
to what is on, and they
severances
don't have as big a catalog, so it's a little bit harder of a sell. Their catalog gets bigger all the time, but what they didn't do is change the annual rate, or, of course, raise Apple One at all. And so the thought process here is they're basically doing this to try and reduce churn. They're trying to give people a deal so that they can save on an annual plan and then commit to Apple for the year. And if you want to only do it, when I wrote about
it's really just to discourage monthly subscriptions.
Yeah, that's exactly it, because that discourages churn by making people make a longer commitment. It's a little like how it's cheaper to go across the Golden Gate Bridge if you're a local than if you're just a random person who drives through the toll plaza. Like,
a lot cheaper.
You can, if you want to do it for a month, you can, but you're going to pay a lot more. The other thing that I think it does, and nobody's going to like to hear this, but I'm just going to put it out there, is the more you raise the price of, and we should say Apple is ad-free, right? And if you look at the prices of the ad-free plans of their competitors, Apple TV Plus is actually priced pretty well because those prices are going up and up and up. What it also does is give Apple room to sell a cheaper version with ads in it, which I think is inevitable. So they'll get there at some point, but you raise the price, you reduce your churn, you give room if you want to do an ad tier later. This is what's happening.
And a lot of companies are trying to raise that price for the subscription because they make more money on you on ads.
On the ad
so
tier.
And I think that Disney said it outright. Like it was flat out like, we'll make more money. We want people to stop with the subscriptions, the ad-free subscriptions, and we want them to go to ads because we'll make more money per head.
They don't want them to stop, right? But what they're doing is they're raising the price because of ARPU, average revenue per user, right? They use this term ARPU. The ARPU should be the same, right? Like your premium subscribers should not be less profitable than your non-premium subscribers. Right. But what that has resulted in, that's why all of those ad-free prices are skyrocketing, is because they will raise that price until the ARPU of that price matches the ARPU of the cheaper ad plan. And the fact is they make a lot of money from ads. So that's why, I'm an ad-free user. I will not do the ad plan. I've tried it. It's terrible. I can't do it.
I can't.
But that's why they raise those prices, is because that's what you're seeing. The price between the ad-free plan and the ad plan is literally the money they make putting ads in it. And if you don't want it, you got to pay for that instead of the advertisers.
I can listen to reads like we do in this show, and I can listen to those even if it's a read by the same person that gets cut in later. That doesn't bother me. It's hey, we're going to suddenly destroy your senses for the next 10 seconds while you're watching something else. Like
that's a big problem with YouTube TV. FCC regulates the volume of ads on broadcast, but they don't do it on streaming. And YouTube TV's ads are really loud.
Oh, but every ad is it's usually 3 clicks on your controller. So to me, I see the ads and I go click, 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 click,
me too.
click, click, click. I count them. I go.
Don't do that on your podcast though, kids, because I don't want an engagement farm or anything. But please don't skip our ads.
But on YouTube TV, when you're watching broadcast and you don't want to watch all those ads, unless I'm waiting for something, it's just like 12 clicks will usually
unless
get you
you're
from
live.
one ad.
See, you don't watch live TV.
I don't
apparently.
watch live TV.
Yeah.
Never.
So
because then I wouldn't be able, literally I feel like I'm the price I pay for live, even like a Steeler game, I start 20 minutes late and then I go out and I take an hour for halftime and everything else. And that way I can always make sure that I can just jump. I even get my wife can't watch football with me because I skip between the plays.
Oh man, I wouldn't
and so I just go, as I do it, like if it gets intense, and so she finds it too chaotic to watch.
There's only 11 minutes of actual action in an NFL game.
Well, what will happen is that if it's the other side and they're on their own side, like if I see something happen that was really, then I go back. But I kind of I don't need to see the first 20 yards of most drives.
Wow, I wouldn't watch football with you either. But
no one likes to watch.
What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm just used to scanning for information, and I've been empowered with all these tools to scan, and I use them.
Or you may be a little ADD.
I like to call it multiplexing. It's not a disorder.
not to cast aspersions.
I think that there's multiplexers and uniplexers, and I'm a heavy multiplexer.
So you may remember last week we said Apple has figured out a way to put blood oxygen sensing back in the Apple Watch by round tripping into the phone.
Upset.
Massimo says, well, hey, wait a minute. First of all, they said they didn't tell us ahead of time.
That's because someone handed somebody a big gold thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they keep Massimo out of the...
August 20th, they filed a federal lawsuit. The press release was the first Massimo had heard of such a deal. The U.S. met with Customs and Border Protection on August 1st by themselves without Massimo's attendance. And surprisingly, the Custom and Border Protection said, Apple, you're right.
Yeah.
Massimo says this violates our Fifth Amendment rights and bypasses due process. And we don't like it one cotton picking bit.
Yeah, the lawsuit that they filed actually stops just short of saying that Apple bought this ruling. They mentioned how cute the timing is between the $600 billion announcement and the solid gold thing ceremony, and how they did this. What this Bloomberg Law has a really nice breakdown of exactly what happened here. So apparently, this started off about a month ago when Customs seized five Apple Watches coming through the border. Apple decided to contact Customs directly, not talking to the ITC, which is the authority that had the authority to actually modify this original order, and said, hey, can you give us an advisory on if we did this, do you think that would be okay with Customs? And Customs gave them a formal investigative advisory, so that sounds like it would be cool to us. And without talking to the ITC, without talking to Masimo, Apple just simply decided to move forward with this. So even the ITC apparently is not pleased about this, and so the people being sued is actually
Kristi Noem and U.S. Customs and Border Protection being sued, not Apple.
Yeah, exactly. And so the ITC is also, according to Bloomberg Law, invested in this, saying, look, you don't have the authority to modify our orders. Only we have the authority to modify our orders. This is BS. So, and maybe enjoy that blood saturation, oxygen saturation feature while you've got it.
Wow.
Because this is still very much up in the air.
We're still grandfathered in, though, with those of us who had the older watches that already had that feature. They didn't remove it from our watches.
If it was sold to you with that as a feature, then Apple has to keep that intact. Otherwise, you're done.
U.S. government is also doing what it can to protect U.S. big tech. The FTC and the president are threatening companies in other countries when they try to censor or demand data or demand encryption breaking from American companies. You may remember last week we told you the UK had backed off their iCloud surveillance demand. Now the FTC says they sent formal letters to over a dozen technology companies, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet, and Amazon, saying, hey, dudes, it's your responsibility to safeguard the privacy and data security of Americans. Yeah, thank you. Even when foreign governments request compliance. So now you're caught between a rock and a hard place here. And I imagine that the other shoe on this is the tariff threat. And we've already seen the president say, hey, if you continue to punish our tech firms, we're going to punish you right back.
Yeah, and most of Europe couldn't really afford that. Like if the United States decides it wants to take the gloves off, it can make them do whatever it needs to do. Like anything that Europe thinks it can do. If the United States turned the faucet off, and which this administration would be more likely to do than any other one. Right. If the United States decided that we're just going to turn the faucet off or threaten to turn the faucet off, Europe has no choice but to back off. They're not going to. Well, we can talk about principles, but you see the UK got into this thing. They've been working on that for a long time, and it got squelched because someone just said, "Hey, how about we just whack you on the head really hard and see if you can still stand?" And that's and again, if the United States continues to overuse their position, then people will figure out other ways to not have that be a problem. But right now the United States has a lot of leverage, and it has chosen over the last 50 years or 80 years to not use that leverage at the level that it's using it at now. But Europe has to they're not in a position, especially with everything else that's going on there, to get into an argument if the United States decided that we're going to pull our gloves off and actually just say, you're going to have to do it the way we say.
Yeah, but there are limits to how long that get out of conflict free card is going to last. They're not going to put up with that forever, and they won't. The U.S. is burning up a hell of a lot of goodwill.
Oh
with
yeah,
these tactics.
I am not.
And it's not going to last forever.
Not disagreeing with you. And they'd have to put up with it for X number of years until they wouldn't have to put up with it. So
maybe not even.
You're 100% right. They
might suddenly say, hey, that agreement where we allowed you to basically have right of passage through our waters for your armies and navies and whatever, we decided that we don't like that. Yeah, I know we have an agreement, but
the problem is
that that happen anymore.
They've underinvested in so much of what they do. If the United States pulls back, it just becomes really complicated for them. It's a lot of that the United States, because it didn't do this before, gave all these countries kind of lived in this little bubble for a long time that they can't really afford to get out of just yet. So you're right, but it's probably, they would have to put up with it for probably a couple years.
I think it's interesting. The FTC is threatening American tech companies. Don't cooperate. So it's a two-pronged assault.
Well, I think the American companies want that letter to be sent to them, because then they have to go to the Europeans like, hey, we're in this country. So they want that letter. They're not caught between a rock and a hard place. They're caught in their own briar patch.
This is a good outcome of the whole UK situation, in saying the US at least is going to say, nobody make a rule that you can spy on our Americans. Citizens because some company has the cloud service that they offer in your country, right? It's like the UK saying, if we want to look at somebody's data anywhere in the world, you have to let us, was such an overreach. And so, I've got to say, it's a good thing for the US to say, nuh-uh, and we'll see how long that goes. But like, it just, the idea that there are no borders and that any country can just grab data anywhere in the world if it says it's okay. Somebody needs to say no to that.
The other thing is there's a lot of tension here, because there are definitely organizations, the NSA and so on and so forth, that would actually prefer to have the UK law go through, because it allows them to do data. So what you're really looking at is that the public side of the government sees this as a political opportunity to protect, quote unquote, protect Americans. the intelligence side is not necessarily behind this. In fact, many people have argued that our own intelligence has used the various versions of the Five Eyes, whether it's New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the UK, to do things that they can't do in the United States to try to crack that open. And this may have been, the Five Eyes may have been using the UK one to open, to try to pry that open. But the public side of this is the tension, especially right now, between the public side of the government and the
the secret side.
It's actually even within the NSA. You have two factions. One saying encrypt everything, boys, because you can't trust anybody, and the other saying, and here's some tools to help break the encryption.
I think Alex is exactly right. That it's an interesting era where usually the protect Americans thing gets carted out in saying we shouldn't have encryption, we should break encryption, we should have backdoors built into encryption. But the other way to think of it is protect Americans by not letting other countries look at their data. I know which one I agree with, right? The idea that people should keep their data quiet and that governments shouldn't make it illegal for people to encrypt their own personal data. But usually the argument is the other way around. And I mean, I'm not saying that there's a lot of coherence going on in the current administration because they are so forceful about law and order and all of those things. But this is a case where they've, for some reason, decided to go the other way and said, no, we don't want anybody spying on our people. Maybe the quiet part is except us. But I don't know. It's an ugly issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that this is not like a moral fight that they're having. This is just a political chit that they think that they feel like they can pick up. We're fighting for Americans, we're fighting for their privacy. I think that side of it is just looking for for points. They're not this isn't something they truly believe in. It's just something that they see as an opportunity to pick a fight that they can win.
Yeah, the UK thing really gave them an opportunity to look tough defending Americans from a foreign country that was going to try and look at their stuff, and so they scored the points, even if it's not necessarily coherent with a lot of their other strategies. So here we are.
You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Alex Lindsay, officehours.global and 090.media. Andy Anako, coming to you from the library. And that's your plug. And Jason Snell, sixcolors.com. So glad you're here. Okay, this was a big kerfuffle when it happened. Apple pushing notifications, what looked like ads, into the Apple Wallet. Remember the Fandango ad? Well, here's some good news. In iOS 26, there is a switch to turn that off.
Yeah.
See? Apple cares.
In an unrelated announcement.
So, of course, it's on by default, right? So you want to, I guess, I haven't even looked at it. Is it in the wallet settings? Where is it located?
I don't know. It's a toggle that just appeared in the latest beta.
Yeah, it's brand new. Yeah.
Notifications
wallet, maybe?
Something like that.
Oh, there it is. Notifications, transactions, savings. Pre-authorized payment.
We should call it the Fandango Fiasco, by the way. That would be fun. Fandango Fiasco.
The Fandango Fiasco is no more. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time.
Oh, no.
For the Vision Pro segment.
Vision Pro, oh Vision Pro, Vision Pro, please don't go.
That's so awful. And then it ends abruptly, even better.
It does.
Andy, though, you do look good in those shades. Those are great. Are there cameras built into those, or should we care or ask?
You don't know.
How would you know?
Unless Walgreens can do a hell of a thing for $20, I don't think
so. Ladies and gentlemen, there is but one story in the Vision Pro, and it's thanks to HBO Max, who has added a Harry Potter environment to your Vision Pro. So now you can watch. Actually, it's pretty cool. It's Hogwarts dining room, it looks like. That's the one where the candles float by the ceiling. You can, and of course, where the sorting hat maneuver occurs, but there's no sorting hat in this one. You can watch the movies in the environment. Yes? How exciting.
That's the only thing you can do with those environments is watch whatever video is in that. And as Alex will point out, the screen isn't big enough in those environments.
Like you just like,
so you don't even want to use it. but
never.
maybe
Like I'm not even.
Yeah.
But a fun idea, though. I mean, and we talked about Alien last week, and Max is leaning into Harry Potter because that's intellectual property.
Which means that somebody at Apple is having lots of meetings with folks of like, hey, you could build this environment inside the Apple Vision Pro. You know, like that's the.
But you have to be using the HBO Max app, right? Yeah. So you're watching it in the HBO Max app and then
on the Vision Pro.
On
and unfortunately, Disney, who added the Alien environment, they have some 3D content. HBO Max still doesn't have any 3D content on their service, which is kind of a bummer.
Isn't Max letterbox too? Like, isn't it always? I think that Max. I thought that it was Max. Do they actually have?
At least some of it is right, because I remember putting Casablanca on HBO Max, and it was in 4:3 as it's supposed to be. But so anyway, it is. It's a shame you can't make these environments that you can live in anywhere in the Vision Pro, because environments are cool, but instead Apple hasn't built that in yet. So instead you're tied to just that app, just like how Disney has a bunch of environments. So they had the like Game of Thrones, the Iron Throne Room was already in the HBO Max app. So this is another one of those.
Oh, okay.
It does feel like there's that. Again, maybe Apple views us all as experiment, as a big experiment, so they're not pushing it that hard. But those environments are so cool. It'd be great to have 20 more, or have an open way for people to create some or something. Yeah. Even if Apple went through heavy approval or whatever, it just feels like. I mean, the Joshua Tree is great. It's the one that I generally use for Joshua Tree at night is kind of my thing, but I would. Love to have other ones.
My theory, which I've said here before, but I'll just say it again really fast, is that Jupyter environment that is not yet in the betas, but is coming in Vision OS 26, is interactive, and it's got a lot of other interesting things we've never seen in an environment before. So my theory is that Apple is like slow playing the environments right now. They know that they're good, but they're also, I think, not good enough. Like the one they built for 1.0 isn't good enough. Jupyter feels like a very 2.0 kind of environment. I would expect that at some point they feel good enough about how environment building works that they'll create an API for it. That is, because all of these apps that have these environments, I think Apple works with them on them, right? Like I don't think somebody just rolls in with an environment. I think Apple is out there working with them on it. I do think at some point it's got to be that apps can contribute environments to the system. But I think the reason we're not there yet is that Apple seems to be tinkering with the format, and Jupyter is the best example of that. So once they get that out there, maybe then we see Apple say, okay, now we're going to let because I would love, like, there's that Tatooine environment in the Disney Plus app. Like, that would be really cool to do something else in Vision Pro on Tatooine. But you can't. You can only watch Disney movies and only at the size of the screen at the drive-in at Tatooine.
That's the thing, is that the size is unworkable. That's because
it's like a full screen mode, so you can't there's no resizing of windows in that mode.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody using it.
Yeah. So, but it is one of the this is one of those things about Vision Pro being an experimental platform that's really for the future, and they're just trying stuff out. This is one of the things that everybody who's tried it has said, yeah, those are really cool, and you should do more. You should lean into that more. And it's great that they're rolling out new environments, but as long as they're locked in media playing apps, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Have you watched F1 in your Vision Pros yet?
I haven't. And
I'm waiting for TV Plus for that. I'm not gonna. I don't want to.
Yeah. What is it? It's $20 or is it more?
It's that middle where you pay a lot of money to rent or buy.
And it's going to be on Apple TV Plus soon. Will it be then in the Vision Pro as well?
Yeah, I imagine it'll be in Vision Pro in 3D if there's a 3D version. Yeah.
Right. Well, there was an IMAX version. It seems like it would be a natural to take the IMAX
version would be nice. Yeah, sure.
Put it on the Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Look, I'm stretching here.
That's it.
I got nothing. That's the Vision Pro segment.
Now you know we're done talking the Vision Pro.
Take off the sunglasses and get back to work. F1 has been a success. $600 million global revenue.
Not bad for something we all knew we were going to get for free.
Yeah.
But it really is. I mean, it's one of the few, I said it when it came out, it's one of the few movies that you feel like you had to see on a big screen.
Not me. I'm fine watching it on the home
I was
TV.
glad I was able to see it. I will admit
27-inch.
I had the opportunity to go see it for free at one of the nicest theaters in the world.
Theater. I'm so jealous.
so that was a little different for me. Yeah. But I think that but I was glad that I got to see it on a big screen, because it did fill up the space in a way that I think a lot of movies don't do anymore. I just saw a good movie, Black Bag. I think it's
Yeah, it's a good
Universal.
movie. I liked it. Yeah,
I thought it was really good. I would have never felt like I need to see that in the
no, you
theater.
can see it anywhere.
Like it was, you can see it anywhere. It wasn't, it was I thought it was well written. It came together well. It was well acted.
Good stars.
Yeah. So I thought that was good. But it's a good example of something that, as a piece of content, I love to watch it. I would never pay to watch it at a movie theater.
Right. Okay. There's a whole bunch of rumors about Apple releases in the iPhone event, but you know what? We're going to know in 2 weeks. It's not.
That's right.
It's not going to kill us to wait. I
feel like we know all the important parts anyway.
Yeah. And the other stuff is so speculative that I don't know. Camera button changes. Who cares? I don't know. We'll find out.
We'll know. Right. Exactly. I feel that same way. That some of these things are so weird final details to have. And like if you didn't know it in June, I don't believe that you know it. Let's just wait and see.
The sweet spot is always July, because that's when they have to start telling people that they don't necessarily trust about certain details and stuff. That's
when you start
hearing exactly. Well, yeah, people that like, okay, we waited to the last possible moment to tell you, and by August, the things that are being told to those people are just trivial things like, oh, who wants to sit on this hot new piece of rumor about the color of the new Apple official iPhone cases? Like, I'm not interested in that at all. I'd much rather talk about immersive environments in Vision OS. Really?
Yes. Okay, here we go. Let's see what else. Oh, I guess this is a story. I don't know what it means. Elon Musk has decided to sue Apple and OpenAI. Hey, he says, what about Grok? Grok's really good, but why is OpenAI in this suit? He says it's being artificially suppressed in Apple's App Store. Is it collusion with OpenAI and Apple? Is that
in the suit? Is kind of hysterical. He's basically saying that Apple has entered an exclusive agreement with OpenAI for ChatGPT integrated into the iPhone and is locking out all other AI platforms, which is patently ridiculous. It's like, why was this suit even fired? It's not going to last at all.
Yeah. When you
very, very, very colorful opening paragraph, though, it basically says that Apple was not as wise as Lord Musk in realizing how important AI would be. They put all of their faith in the iPhone, and to their almost immediate ruin, realized the folly of their mistake.
Folly. He is in,
quoting,
of course, a lawsuit with OpenAI on separate occasion. So. Yeah, I imagine this would be thrown out immediately, but it is in the Northern District of Texas, where Elon is a big employer. So maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to follow, to be honest.
It feels like we can't just let companies do what they do,
right?
like at some point,
it's a very childish attitude. Like, I don't like what you're doing, so I'm going to sue you. It's just, I think, a childish.
And you don't have, usually at that level, you have staff and lawyers who say, yes, honey, I know we're all upset about it, but we can't. Here are the reasons why we can't sue about it, and it's not going to make you look good. And then you get all pouty and you throw your toys out of the pram and say, well, I want a lawsuit anyway. You promised me I can sue anybody I want. It's like, okay, honey,
it's your money.
I suppose we can't argue that it'll affect your public perception and your dignity. So I guess we're out of arguments now.
Yeah, really. There's nothing to do there. I'm just scanning through there's so many little, rumory kind of things. The information had a story saying Apple discussed buying Mistral AI, the French AI company, OpenWeight's AI company, and Perplexity. Meaningless. Eddie Q, we know this. I don't know why it's a story. Eddie Q's been pushing for this for a while. Apple does not, and this was the information's point, part with billions of dollars readily. In fact, there have only really been two big $1 billion acquisitions, the $3 billion for Beats and the $1 billion for Intel's modem business. So, in fact, the headline in the information is Apple's aversion to big deals could thwart its AI push, or maybe not, or maybe not. I don't know. It could, or it could not. We don't know. It's a non-story, but it is August. And
The headline was interesting. It basically asked the question, like, is Apple is Apple handicapping itself by virtue that they don't like making acquisitions of larger than $100 million? I mean, when it tandems well with another story that I think Gurman had. Gurman had as a feature article in Bloomberg, not as a newsletter item, that they're in talks with Gemini to not just put Gemini as one of the models that's supported by Apple Intelligence, but also what if we were to just throw out all the work we've done on our own language model for Shlomo and just use Gemini for that instead, which, if true, would be astounding if at this stage they had so little confidence in what they're making for Shlomo that they said, we don't even want to chance it anymore. We want something that's tried and true.
And there would be also antitrust issues, and it just feels like that's the last company they're going to go to.
The thing is, though, it's the LLMs are black boxes, and could Apple continue to make all their statements about privacy if they weren't able to vet this model and say that we know for a fact what it's doing, we know all the promises that we've been making about what we will allow and not allow on our platform, we can still honor, and also would Google be satisfied with the amount of money that they're being paid, the amount of cloud services that they'd be charging Apple for anything that they can't do on device, as well as the additional training for its models by having it as basically built, hard baked into tens and tens of millions of extra devices? Or would Google say, we want to access this, we want this provision, we want this exclusivity, we want this information? So again, I don't know if it's I'm sure that they're talking to everybody at this point. I'm sure that they're, given the amount of churn they've had in the entire project, I'm sure they're considering every single option that's out there, at least to figure out what would be the ups and downs of doing this. But it would be amazingly remarkable if half a year before they're promising to actually start to ship the new updated Shlomo, they basically said, we're throwing away all of our in-house work and we are going to base this entire thing off of a third-party project.
I think throwing away is a little dramatic, because I suspect that if they get a third party to drive Siri, they're probably going to keep working on their foundation models with the hope that they will be able to drive it later. But I think this says something about the big shakeup that's happened over the last year, which is the old thing wasn't getting it done, right? And so they brought in new management to be empowered to make tough decisions about Siri. Mike Rockwell came in to do that. And this is one of those tough decisions, right? Is they're apparently doing a bake-off where Siri could be driven by Apple's models or by a third-party model, TBD, that they tried. They've had several. They had Claude in there. I would imagine if they made an acquisition, that would be one fast way they could do that as well. And then now apparently talking to Google about Gemini. The other piece of that story that I found fascinating is Gurman says they're talking to Google about building a version of Gemini to drive Siri, so probably trained at least to a certain degree on app intents, because that's a big part of this, and to run on Apple's private cloud compute servers, which is really interesting because that means it's in Apple's hands. It's private. It means Apple's also spending the money on the data centers and not Google, which changes the price of using Google's models. It doesn't eliminate the price, but it changes it because Google's not paying for the hardware. At that point, it's running on Apple's hardware. It gives Apple a privacy promise. Also makes me wonder if we're not seeing the big picture of this being a multi-tier process where there's like the private Siri that you get with your iPhone, and then you could opt to log into maybe Gemini, maybe OpenAI, maybe Claude, maybe something else, and then use their model if you've got an account or a paid account or whatever it is. There may be some tiers like that, but Apple has to be concerned with the out-of-the-box experience. What's the default experience? And I think talking to Google about private cloud compute for Gemini says something really interesting about the fact that I don't think Apple can do Siri out of the box with data going to someone else's servers. I don't think they can. It kind of has to be private if you're doing Siri out of the box. You can opt maybe into something else, but I think out of the box, it has to be private. And if that isn't Apple's own models, maybe it's somebody else's models on Apple servers. So, I think this is a good sign because I think it's Mike Rockwell saying, we're going to ship this thing and we want it to be good. And if our models aren't up to speed, we won't use them. And that's the right call. That's the right call.
A lot of companies have used other people's services to get off the ground until they backfill with their own technology. Even, when Hangouts came out, it wasn't based on Google's servers. When YouTube Live came out, it wasn't based on YouTube's servers. So Google does that too. Apple, reportedly uses AWS for stuff. It's not like they always have to do everything themselves. And I think Apple, the biggest thing that they need to do is not necessarily create their own thing, but make AI really easy and seamless for people, regardless of how it works. Now, they may backfill something over the next 3 to 5 years that's completely different, and they roll it out in whatever iOS 29 or 30 or whatever. But as long as they make it seamless, again, for most of us who have figured out how to use a shortcut for ChatGPT, it's already seamless. But a lot of us want to see the next generation of integration with, I think that like Xcode. You're starting to see some of the integration there. Is you want something that's highly trained for a specific mission that does it really well, and you don't have to think about anything. And I think that is, and so I think, as far as figuring out how to use it and how to integrate it with your daily life. But I think that's Apple's real mission needs to be, how do we make AI seamless? And then they can figure out how to do it themselves. And I think this Google conversation is part of conversations that include Anthropic and ChatGPT. And I think that now the other conspiracy theory thing is if Apple got shut off from making money from Google and Google was providing other services to Apple, they might even out.
Yeah.
so if there wasn't cash going back and forth, it could be services going back and forth, where it's so that $20 billion may seem like a lot of money, but if you start doing AI in the back end of Apple's infrastructure for their users, it would be maybe a wash.
If you're wondering why, given that we are starting to get the betas now pretty quickly of 26, but you haven't applied the betas yet. You got a bunch of quick in succession patches on the existing versions of Sequoia and iOS and iPadOS. It's because there was a big bad 0 day being exploited, and Apple patched them with 18.6.2 on iOS and iPadOS, 17.7.10 on the older iPads. They even patched Ventura and Sonoma, Sequoia up to 15.6.1. This is, weirdly, this year, the 7th 0 day that has been in actual exploitation when the company issued patches. This one patched the Image.io framework, which could result in memory corruption when processing a malicious image. Apple said in an advisory, Apple is aware of a report that this issue may have been exploited in an extremely sophisticated attack against specific targeted individuals. And if you wonder who those are nation-state attacks, usually zero-click attacks via text message. And there is a brisk business. There was a new zero-day company started up this week offering $20 million in bug bounties for exactly these kinds of attacks against iPhones. Countries are willing to pay a lot of money.
Yeah. This is about as bad as it gets. Not only 0 day, but also zero click. It's like that's no good.
Yeah. If I could send you a text message and now I own you.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right. One last break. And then, folks, it's going to be time for your picks of the week. So ready those, if you will. We are in the midst of MacBreak Weekly, the show we cover all the great Apple news every week, every Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Actually, usually around 11 to 1:30 p.m. Pacific. That's, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. And I mention those live times because you can't actually watch us live. If you're in the club, and we hope you are in the club, you can watch us live in our Club Twit Discord, but there's also streaming versions of the show at that time. In fact, most of our shows we stream live on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, X.com, and the Australian streamer Kick. So watch us live if you want. If there's a chat in those streamers, and most of them do have it, I see the chat. So thank you for the comments. I'm paying attention. We like that. That's always fun. You don't have to watch live after the fact. On-demand versions of all of our shows available at our website, There are club-only shows, and those are available through the Club Twit Discord, but otherwise at twit.tv. There are usually YouTube channels dedicated to the video. All our shows are audio and video. And there's also subscription possibilities for free in most cases if you just go to your favorite podcast client. Do leave us a good review if you do that, because we appreciate the publicity. When you've been around as long as we have, it's nice to get some new eyeballs watching or listening, if you listen with your eyeballs, to the show. If you're not a club member, can I invite you to join? I'd love to have you. It is $10 a month. It is a very big, important part of our monetization. It's 25% of our operating costs. Frankly, I'd love to make that more. I'm a little worried about recession and inflation and problems in the economy and so forth. And we've seen a drop off in advertising in general. So I want the club to be there to backstop it. And if you are not yet a member, let me encourage you to join, not only because you support what we do, but also because you get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to that Club Twit Discord, which is a wonderful place to hang out and chat, not just during the shows, but 24/7. Right now they're talking about Rocky Horror Picture Show for some reason. There are sections in the chat for all kinds of conversations. There's also, by the way, events that we do coming up on Labor Day. We're doing an unusual off-hours interview because she's in Hong Kong. It's the only time she could do it. Karen Howe, the author of Empire of AI, a real indictment, but also a fascinating history of open AI. Paris, Jeff, and I will be interviewing her at 5:30 Pacific on September 1st. And you, as a club member, you're invited to watch that live. We'll roll it into a show later, of course. Chris Marquardt's Photo Time is coming up September 5th. Delightful is the assignment. Our AI user group follows immediately after on the 5th. We do a lot of other things in the club, as well as, oh, look at this. Thank you, Anthony Nielsen. He's immediately posted that we will be covering the Apple awe-dropping event Tuesday, September 9th, 10 a.m. Pacific, but that's club only. Micah Sargent and I will be breaking down the iPhone 17 announcements and whatever else Apple talks about. But you must be in the club to watch this because we don't want any more strikes on our YouTube channel. So club only, September 9th, 10 a.m. Join the club. Come on, man. What's holding you up? twit.tv/club twit. And thank you in advance to all our club members. We really appreciate it. Now time for our picks of the week. Let's start it off with Jason Snell.
All right. I am doing an unusual pick this time. My pick is a website service called Nick's Fix. It's a guy named Nick, NICSFIX.com. What does Nick do? He fixes old HomePods. He fixes first-gen HomePods, which, like many classic Apple products, have a fatal flaw that stops them from working sometimes. They just die. Won't take power anymore. It's just a little thing on the board. Getting to the board is incredibly hard, but Nick knows how to do it. And for $70, he will fix it and ship it back to you. And I want to really recommend this because, and there's a link in our show notes to this. He streams it live on YouTube and sends you a link when he fixes. And so if you brilliant. If you check out his YouTube link, the one that I put in the show notes is of my HomePod that I sent to him.
Nice.
You can see what gets taken apart. How do you take a HomePod apart? It's terrifying, but he's done it enough that he knows all the details of how to do it. And he does it all while he's talking on his YouTube stream. But he squirts some weird stuff in and rolls it around. He takes a bunch of stuff off. He's desoldering and resoldering.
Wow.
While he's in there, he's noticed that there's this really bad foam thing that he replaces with a rubber thing so that the bass sounds better. He'll do that kind of on the fly. He replaces this one bad part as well as the DC filter, which can lead to some bad power issues. Those things go bad after 5 or 10 years, he says. So he fixes those. If you have other problems, like mine does not power on. But this is a rare thing where if you have these things and they were not cheap, and one of the frustrations is they are in the age now where they just die. I've had 2 that just stop working one day. And you're like, I could recycle it, but would you for $70 just get it back? And I decided, yeah, I would. I used to have a stereo pair and now I only have one. And I'd really like to have that stereo pair back. And I sent it to Nick and I watched as he fixed it. He does it so fast. I'm telling you, this guy has done so many of these now that he can disassemble and reassemble a HomePod in his sleep.
Yeah.
He knows how to do. Oh, by the way, if you've got a white one, he will dye the fabric another color if you would like, even the cable.
Is this all for the same price?
There's slight differences in price.
Okay.
The other thing is he'll diagnose it before he charges you. So he will be able to tell you whether he can fix it and how he can fix it and what the price is.
He does this so much, he's permanently plugged in his electric screwdriver. I love
that. Yeah. No, it is a whole system that he's got there to take the whole thing apart.
And he uses the top of an old HomePod to hold all his tools, which I love.
It is amazing. And he will also, take donations and all of that. And I think for me, everybody needs to decide, but like I had 2 HomePods, one of them died. And I'm like, you know what? I feel really bad. I would like that stereo pair back. And the fact is, like original Macs often, there's like a part that breaks. And he said, in this case, if you look at his site, like there's like a couple of weeks where they had this one particular part and they've all failed. And there's no way to tell whether you're in one of those without disassembling it. But if your HomePod was assembled during that period, they just stop working. And then he knows about some other stuff that he can do as well.
Does Apple
to fix
not
other
offer
problems.
these fixes?
They're too old. These are outmoded products. So
When was it released?
Oh, this is like 10 years ago?
Is it really 10? I literally, it sits in my kitchen. It is used every day for hours and hours and hours.
We have 2 in the bedroom, a stereo pair. That's how we listen to music in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2017. Okay, so not quite, but 8 years ago.
He's really good. Look how quickly he's torn this down.
He's so good. It's amazing. And he's talking to people on his live stream while he's doing it. Like he's got it. And then you should see when he does his soldering and his unsoldering. It is just...
We won't.
Yeah.
Like it's like he's doing it in his sleep. It's amazing. This
is why right to repair is such an important thing, because you look at a bare board and say, okay, clearly it's not like these things are in sockets. It's not like you can just. But the thing is, especially if you hide out on YouTube and you look at like people repairing things. There are people who are like, here is a MacBook that was totaled because they want $1,000 for a new logic board.
What is that schmutz?
That
was inside your AirPod, your HomePod?
I think maybe. I don't know. I have lots of pets around. He cleans. By the way, he cleans the fabric a little bit as a part of the process.
All that stuff came out. Oosh.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Yep. Jason 4048 and 4093.
Well, 4093 he didn't get to because his wife and kid came home, and so this was the last one he did on his live stream on Friday night. But like
NICSFIX.com.
Yeah. So he's fixed one for me. He fixed one for John Syracuse. I've known some people who've gone through this process.
That is such a deal. Apple would charge you $150, $200.
If you've got a box and some wrapping, you can send it to him. He's also happy to send you a box with wrapping in it, and then and a label, and then you just mail him back.
Oh my God.
He's a really nice guy. He takes payment in all sorts of different forms.
Look at that. Those are surface mounted. How do he just?
Yeah, exactly.
Holy camole!
Right. I mean,
this guy is Burke. What do you think? I mean, Burke does this. Look how he's desoldering these surface mounted whatever doohickeys.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I love that he live streams this.
I just wonder how many he went through before he got it all working.
Well, yeah, he's clearly done thousands now. So he went through. I guess he saw a teardown on a document on the web and decided that he would like to do that, and then he sort of like. I mean, that's the brilliance of this is like the only way it's worth it to fix a HomePod is if there's somebody who knows exactly how to fix a HomePod.
He's desoldering surface mounted components, folks.
I wonder.
Yeah. By the way, those are burned. I can see now. That's not dirt. That's not schmutz that came out of your HomePod. That's solder burns.
Solder on his little desk mat there. Yeah. But it's and then he lays on the new.
He's laying on the new. Look at that.
Pieces. And he'll solder those in there.
How could that work?
He works so fast that like he doesn't even wait to like check to see the solder is okay when it cools. He's like moved on to the next thing. He does blink and you miss it. Like he's testing like, oh, is this one dead? Yes, this is dead. That's why this is like this. And then he takes it off and he just replaces it. It's and also right to repair. It's a good point. Like if you could spend $70 and have a HomePod work so you don't have to recycle a HomePod. maybe that's worth it to you. And I would also say
I would absolutely pay $70 to have my HomePod.
And
I want mine to die now so I can send it to Nick.
Send it to Nick. Exactly. Well, he'll do a refurb for you regardless if you want to send him one, but I'd wait for it to die first.
Yeah. I have a bunch of these big ones. These are the big ones.
This
right?
is the
Does
first,
he do the little ones too?
He doesn't do the little ones, and he doesn't do. He says if it's a second generation, you should talk to Apple. But that first generation is basically
it's only the
at
first
the end of its life, and those are the ones that he knows exactly. And he says on the second generation HomePod, they fixed this. They replaced that bad part that dies in all the first generation HomePods with a more resilient one that doesn't. They figured it out, right? Because the bad ones go back to Apple and they're like, oh yeah, it's this again. But Nick knows it too. So anyway, and I think it's worth it just to have the entertainment of watching him fix your thing live on YouTube.
I would love to take my car to someone who would stream it live. Watch.
This is
look over.
Brilliant. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I love it.
It is, and also it's charming. Like when he was doing this, like I said, his wife got home, and his little kid ran in, and so like he goes away for a little while and is talking to his kid and he's talking to his wife, and he comes back. He's like, "All right, guys, this has to be the last one." This is
what YouTube was made to do. This is brilliant,
right? And he's got a good setup. He's got 2 cameras. He's got like a zoom in. You can really see what he's doing.
You really can see what he's doing.
He's a pro at this. I think it's delightful. So Nick's Fix.
Nick's NICSFIX. No K. NICSFIX.com. Jason, you win the Pick of the Week award for this week.
And I get a working HomePod out of it. That's
nice. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I think we could probably find some other great picks of the week. Let's try Andy Anako next. Andy?
Well, Labor Day is coming up. Which is both a fact and also the start of one of Studs Terkel's like most famous and best stories.
This is one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah, it's basically a 2-part recommendation. Go to YouTube and do a search for Studs Terkel, Terkel, and it's Labor Day. He tells a story about. He's lived to be 90 in his 90s.
You knew him, right? Career. You knew him well.
I knew him. I knew him through Roger, and I'd met him a few times. I once acted as his living hearing aid / like Svengali. Like
I remember that. Yeah.
There was where he'd spoken at an event, and like we were hanging out in front. Of course, he's a legend inside Chicago, so everyone was around him. I don't know what it was about my voice, like my baritone, but he could understand my voice in that environment a lot better than all the other people that were talking to him. So basically, hi Studs, my name's Millie. I think you interviewed like my great aunt Estelle when she was in Ogdenville, and he would then turn to me, and I would say, he says that he's a nephew of his Aunt Millie. You interviewed him. I would repeat the exact same thing, and this went on for like 20 minutes of people coming over to say hi to him. And I always wondered what people thought like I was to him. But anyway, to get back, so he tells us. So basically, he wrote this. One of the many monumental works he did as an interviewer was published this book in 1974 called "Working." In which he interviewed hundreds of people just to talk about what they do for a living.
Honor them for their labor. It was amazing.
Yeah, and there's all the way from just desk clerks at hotels to people who work makeup counters in department stores to professional baseball players to like corporate managers. And it really is a celebration of the value of work and how these people all valued the work that they did for a living. Obviously, it's a long-ish book, but the thing is, it is episodic, so you can just keep. My copy is like in the easy to access part of my bookshelf, because oftentimes when I don't know what I want to read, I'll just grab Working off the shelf and just start reading anywhere.
Yeah, because it's just a bunch of interviews.
Yeah,
and I did not know this, but I found on Libro.fm there's apparently an audio book that is the interviews themselves.
Yep.
Excerpted. Have you heard that?
Yep, I've said there are lots of collections. Again, he had a radio show for for like decades, in which and most of those tapes are preserved, which is why he is basically the living history of Chicago during that period. Which is why there were so many people who were so eager to praise him and meet him and say hi to him and say, yeah, my grandmother was like on your show like in 1951 and talked, and she always every year she'd take out the tape and we'd listen to it. And he was just such a human directed interviewer, where just everyone has great stories inside them. An interviewer who is as empathetic and insightful and knowledgeable by humanity as Studs Terkel will get those wonderful stories out of them. And it is a celebration of labor, and in an environment where the value of labor has been sometimes not so much respected. It's good to go back and realize that these are the people who are going through their life. Basically, we all have jobs. We all do things each and every day, and each one is worthy of respect.
Yes.
No one is disposable. No one is interchangeable, because this person is doing their job in exactly the right way. On the YouTube video, he tells a story about as waiting on the bus, and he basically. And there's a yuppie that's sort of next to him that he's never talked to for the past 3 weeks, and he just decides to be like the cantankerous, the weird old man that the young person has to deal with. He said, "Labor Day is coming up." And it's such a great story, because he gets this kind of conversation, and the guy says, I hate labor unions. And he basically points out that, how many hours do you work today? And he said, about like 9. So, okay, why aren't you working 16? And he says, well, the reason why you're working 9 hours a day and 5 days a week instead of 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, is because of these 4 people who are labor organizers who were killed for their labor organizing in Haymarket Square in Chicago some decades ago. It's like, oh, wow. This is, again, the Labor Day is a holiday for a reason, because there's so much that we get to enjoy as the standard of how a work relationship with an employer is defined, and was because of a lot of people who either were severely injured or had to be run out of town, or who gave their lives for this. So that's why, ever since hearing this story and ever since reading that book, Labor Day is kind of a really cool holiday.
Loved working. Loved it. Thank you for that. A great recommendation. Finally, Mr. Alex Lindsay, your pick of the week.
So an app that I'm just starting to play with a little bit, and I'm excited about the idea of it, and I think that we've talked a lot about the idea that you'd be able to just talk to your phone or talk to your computer and build apps, and I feel like there's always been this shortcuts wasn't quite enough. It works, and I use a lot of shortcuts, but it wasn't. You always feel like, I want to do more. I want to be a little bit more open range, but I don't want to start writing code either. And there's a new app from ex-Apple employees that called Bitrig, and bitrig.app. And what it does is it's an iPhone app, and you tell it what you want an app to be, and it makes it. and it can submit it to test flight. It can do all, like it is, and it's all in Swift and Swift UI. You can grab the code if you want and take a look at it. Again, it was, I think, announced last week. So it was kind of one of those things that I haven't really dug into it as deep as I'd like to, but I love the idea, and I think it's worth people paying attention to it, because this, I think, is going to be part of a future of people having, open-ended, thinking of something, being able to create it. I have a couple friends that are building apps that are now, especially for production-related things, where I need something that's a single mission. I'm not trying to build the next Facebook. I just needed to do this thing. I think that these kinds of apps could be, this kind of app and this kind of environment could be really powerful for a lot of people who have just something that they need to get done. And it's a little bit more than what shortcuts can do, and a little less. And it has the potential of being able to actually sell it. Like if you actually get it running and you keep it simple, keep your elbows in. But it's called Bitrig, and it's so
it's vibe coding, but you do it on the phone.
But it's vibe coding on the phone, but very specialized and very trained for Swift and Swift UI. So this is where you start to see this kind of focused mission.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And I just think being able to just sit there and talk to your phone or type in, this is what I want to do. So I've got like a little app that I have that I like. The one that I'm working on right now is I need an app that manages sync that I've been thinking about we tested in office hours years ago. And it's been one of those things like, I'll get around to it. I've decided that that's the thing that I'm going to try to build on here, and so because AV Sync is
so it's free to install, but then if you wanted to,
I paid for it. I paid $20. It's
$20.
You can do something light with it for free, and it's like $20. Oh, no, sorry, it's $20 a month. So it's kind of like what we all know is the number that everyone like. Oh, it's AI. We'll do that, and if it's not useful for me in a couple months, I'll stop.
Yeah, that is the price, isn't it?
That seems to be the price
AI these days.
And I look at all the AI stuff now. I've gotten a little bit more aggressive about. The nice thing is that you do the subscription through Apple, so it's easier. It's through the thing, so I can.
We're going to be. We're going to. I think this may be something we could talk about on one of our shows. Yeah. So, if not our AI user group, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, a week from Friday, maybe on intelligent machines. Good tip. I'm gonna look into this. I'm gonna download it. Is what I'm gonna do. Wouldn't it be fun if I developed an app to listen to our show?
Exactly. That's the kind of thing. Like, I just want to build an app that does this one little thing, or I want to do something there, and I don't know how far I can take it. Do
you know what model it's using? I mean, does it say anything about that?
I didn't see what model, but my guess, if I'm going to guess blindly without any knowledge, I would say Anthropic, just because Anthropic has really built their system around.
Claude Code is the
and Anthropic has really built themselves as the back end for a lot of other people's apps.
These guys, by the way, I didn't know this, are the co-creators of Swift UI.
Right.
So they do know a little bit about
That's the thing, is it's not just someone who just like, I'm going to throw together an app. I mean, these are ex-Apple folks that worked on this thing and they're committed to it. And so
it's the Swift UI team basically that did this.
Right.
Wow. But it's not an Apple product. It's their company, their startup. Yeah. BitRig. It's on the App Store. Wow. Can you use it on a Mac, or is it you have to do, or an iPad?
I've only downloaded it on my phone. I think it's really
just for the phone.
It's really designed as like you're going to develop this on the phone for the phone. Yeah. But what's crazy is that you can develop it and then be using it right then, or really quickly after.
Talk about taking shortcuts and.
Wow. Well, and imagine being able to incorporate shortcuts and incorporate other things. But I still feel like there's this place we're about to get to where you start to go, I have an idea, and I can develop that idea based on the weird thing that I'm trying to do in my life, and then I can very quickly put it on the App Store, and potentially make money with it. And it doesn't. And the thing is that it just didn't make sense when you have to write it for the next 6 months or 3 months or 2 weeks. But being able to write something that you work on with regular language, not as a technical programmer, and able to generate an app that solves your own problem that you're willing to spend time on anyway, but then also potentially generate some revenue. It's pretty interesting.
Very good. BitRig at bitrig.app. And I will be installing this right after the show. And if you don't see me in for a little while, you'll know why. My pick of the week is the congratulations to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, who have announced their engagement in a Instagram post that said, it's like your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married. This is such a big story. They have a live breaking news on the BBC site where you can watch this as it happens.
That's another invitation that I don't need to check my inbox for, I think.
Well, that wraps up this thrilling, gripping edition of MacBreak Weekly. My deepest thanks to Jason Snell, the hardest working man in podcasting. He's got how many now? 20, 30 different shows.
Who can count? I've lost count. I can't count that high. No.
6colors.com/Jason.
Thank you.
For that's just the beginning, because then if you click the incomparable, then there's a whole bunch more shows. He's a busy guy.
I'm not on all of those shows, but
doesn't matter.
I write things too. So
and he writes a little bit for 6 Colors in Macworld. So there you go. Always a pleasure. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Leo.
Andy Anatko is the guy.
Soon.
I'm not going to say anything. I am not, because I don't want to put pressure on you. He's on the Blue Sky. Go to the Blue Sky. IHNATKO. And Alex Lindsay, officehours.global, where questions are asked and answered every morning.
We get up every morning and off we go. We will have. I'm following Andy's guidelines here of getting close to releasing something, but not quite. But our immersive, my immersive channel will be next week. So I wasn't quite able to finish.
Learn
the first video,
from
so
Apple's
we should have fun.
Example, and do not mention anything until it's time.
I know exactly.
And copy. Wait for someone else to prove that this product or business is viable, and then
copy it.
It's just taking the half baked bread and putting it back in the oven for another 20 minutes. That's all. That's all Apple does.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I guess that's all I need to say, except We appreciate your support. Join the club if you're not yet a member, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday. But now, unfortunately, it's my sad and solemn duty to tell you get back to work because break time is over. See you next week. No matter how much spare time you have, Twit.tv has the perfect tech news format for your schedule. Stay up to date with everything happening in tech and get tech news your way with Twit.tv. Start your week with This Week in Tech for an in-depth, comprehensive dive into the top stories every week. And for a midweek boost, Tech News Weekly brings you concise, quick updates with the journalists breaking the news. Whether you need just the nuts and bolts or want the full analysis, stay informed with Twit.tv's perfect pairing of tech news programs.